Okay. Are we somebody? Oh, it says live. I guess that means it's live. Let's see. I'll just see. Well, let's see. If anybody can see me, you just let me know. It's 5 o'clock now. I guess that means that it's going. Well, William Vanderberg. Well, cheers, William. You're actually here before it even started. That's awesome. Mr. 49 Studebaker is here. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to you guys. It's one of the reasons I thought I would do this. Very often these things happen in the middle of people's work days, and I thought there's maybe a chance that there might be people at home or whatever. And maybe there's just a lot of people sitting around having some drinks, and that's always something that we approve of. So hope you guys are having a terrific Thursday evening. We're having a very fantastic Thursday evening here. It's kind of cold outside, and I thought rather than the usual video on Thursday, which would have been me doing the brakes on the Volvo, which nobody would have watched anyway. So let's just hang out. And I was just talking with the fine people on the Patreon show, and maybe some of them will join us here as well. Wow, look at how many people are here already. That's crazy. Well, let's Granddad's good day. Good day. Good day, Mike Michaud. Good day to Sydney, Australia. Mick, cheers. Junks Automotive. Cheers, buddy. Oh, thank you. You guys know Junks Automotive. I have to say, that video you did, that A, it was very funny, and B, pretty convincing. Yeah, I was like, it really looked like me. Thank you so much for that. It was very flattering. All the fellas saw it, and we all had a good laugh. So thank you very much for that. Kurt is back. Kurt, we were just talking on the Patreon show. And let's see. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. Whoa, Mr. 49 Studebaker has apparently lost his mind and is throwing $20 at us. Thanks so much, man. A little help towards car parts. Thank you, buddy. That is very, very kind of you. And yeah, well, the nice thing is if anybody donates hoping that I'll spend it on car parts, you don't have to worry, because that's all I spend anything on anyway. So there's no worry that I would spend it on anything else, really. Wow, great. Thank you guys all so much for stopping in. I'm going to try to keep up with the thing on the side here, which is very fun. And so I'm not going to be able to, of course, answer every little question, but we will do our best, and we'll try to get through. I guess I could just sit here and read people's names as fast as possible too. If anybody has any questions about any of the projects we're working on, let me know. And otherwise, I'll just say thank you guys so much for stopping in. It is a nice opportunity. I don't do a lot of these, but today I filmed a lot of stuff this week, but in the way that I put the videos together, I kind of I was like that. I like the Thursday video should be something that stands alone and isn't really related to the other projects, or can be, a start to finish thing. So it just didn't really have much that was a standalone kind of situation filmed this week. And I just thought, well, we don't do a lot of this type of thing. So let's stop in, say hi, and thank you guys for popping in. And if anybody has any questions about any of the projects we're working on, wow, we got people from all over the world stopping in. You guys, it's so great to see so many of the names that I see in the comments section, a lot of them every week. And, that's what keeps us going is, it's a very small channel, and it's very, very, it's very gratifying to see a lot of the same people in the chat thing here as I see in the comments section. And thank you guys. Thanks so much. First question. Where's Honey Bunny? She's shyly hiding in the other room. I threatened her with me taking a bathroom break, and then she can just run this for a few minutes, but she's not having it, I'm afraid. Frankers was right there, but now she's gone. She's hiding with Honey Bunny, I guess. You guys, Michigan, Florida. Scott Reed says we need to see the Roadster thing on the truck frame. Yeah. Oh, well, we've had a chat about that before. I think in that I do want to get that done. I started that an embarrassingly long time ago. The trouble with that, well, there's not really that much trouble with it. It's a big project. Some projects are very easy to have all your friends over and everybody can jump on something and do something. And that's kind of the nature of what we're trying to achieve, is like, this is what you can do when you're hanging out with your friends. Yeah, we'll Tillart also same question about the Roadster. Yes, I'd love to finish it. It's just that is a very labor intensive project, and YouTube is not always the venue for tedium. So it just has to, it's a difficult thing to make work in the YouTube format and in the format of the show, which is a bunch of my friends come over and we just hang out and do whatever, which is great when you've got an engine to build, or in the case of the Buick, which we'll be working on this weekend's show, it's a little easier when you have a very clearly defined job ahead of you and everybody can grab a piece of it and go. Whereas something like fabricating that Roadster from scratch, I can't just say, okay, well, Ashley, you build the steering column, and Dean, you build the exhaust, and I'll build the trunk lid or whatever. It's not really that kind of a project. So that's all. Otherwise, yeah, I would love, honestly, I want to get it done because I've been blowing hot air on it in that garage for years, and it's turned into a shelf. And it was just, it's just difficult to find the time when I have I have half a dozen cars going of my own plus my friends' cars at any time, and so it's just difficult to like the Roadster will require a clean shop and a clear head to finish it up. So just because there's still a lot of, once I get that thing to the part where all the pieces are made and it's all kind of rough together, then the next step is you blow it all apart, finish everything nicely, and put it back together. And at that point, then it will be a huge feature on the channel, because then everybody can come over and all the guys can help paint the frame, and we can all get together and we can all help get the engine regasketed and rebuilt. And these are all things that are very easy to do with your friends, but so much of it is like, well, how am I going to join these two pieces together, and what am I going to make this look like? And well, I can't just say, okay, well, somebody else designed that, and somebody, because it won't work. It just won't work out. Anyway, sorry, I'm probably missing a bunch of other things happening here. So, but that's the short answer. The short answer is I want to finish it too, but the current situation here is not conducive to getting that done with too much other stuff in the way right now. So Robert Deal, cheers. Shout out to Dan. Well, I'll be sure to let him know. I'll probably be seeing him in the next day or two here. Yes, Douglas says Laura's Rover finished. That would be cool. Absolutely. We're in negotiations with Steven right now to finish the mechanical work on the Rover. I can't really finish putting the body together and putting the final coat of paint on it until the drivetrain and wiring harness are in, and preferably most of the interior. So the car is at Colin's house right now, waiting for the engine to go in, and waiting for the transmission and the wiring harness and get the overdrive working. And there's a lot of things to do there, which were outside of my original plan for the car, or original commitment to the car. And they're, of course, very busy with house, cabin, farm, kids, jobs, Laura's doing her master's degree. Like there's a gigantic amount of stuff going on around there. Those, it's not laziness that's not done. It's just that when you've got 10 things that are on fire and one thing that's not actually on fire, the thing that's not on fire does not get done. And that's just, and that's the way she goes. That's totally fine. I'm not upset about it. I understand, I know how it goes, but I also know that sometimes the best thing to do is find the person who is the right person for the job and let them do it. And that's Stephen. And we're actually, in talking with Stephen about bringing the car to his house, and he's going to put the engine in and he's going to do the wiring. And then from there, it'll come back to here. So the Rover is still very much in the picture. It's just we have to also make sure that it's not going to be a burden on Stephen, because his shop is, he just moved there to his acreage there, and so he's got house problems and wiring problems and insulation problems and huge amount of stuff that he's got to sort out. He's getting his shop set up so that he can make some little money in there. So he needs power and lighting and heat and tire machine, and he's got all these things that he's got to put together before he's opening the doors for work. So all of this stuff, it all just takes time, and it will all get done. Everything will get done. It's just it just takes a little time. So anyway, yeah, thank you guys. Always happy to keep you up to date on any of the projects or any of the plans. So yeah, anybody's got any questions about any particular car, you guys let me know, and I'll try to bring you up to date. Just saying hi to, wow, the whole rest of the world, Sweden and California, and just so much going on. Awesome. Oh, Duncan Frere. I'm enamored with Dan's epic Imperial. Oh, me too, man. What a fantastic car. We are getting into the brakes on the car now, because now that it runs and drives, now we have to make it stop. I think Dan is pretty determined that we are going to get that car mechanically functional, and then we're going to jump back on the 53 Oldsmobile and carry on with the, because the Olds is a running driving car now as well. The Olds needs a lot of welding. So I think the idea is to get the Imperial, which wasn't in the picture when he bought and started the Olds. The Imperial wasn't in the picture. Now we have this lovely Imperial that's, we did not expect it to be as close to roadworthy as it was when he bought it. We thought maybe the engine would be shot, maybe it's rust or hidden rust or old damage, or maybe it's just completely garbage. But to get the car here and see how little it's going to take to put it on the road, it makes more sense, as we've talked about with paying off your credit cards, as you pay off the smallest one first. It makes more sense from a freeing up shop space point of view. Get the Chrysler in, get it functioning, get the brakes working, and get that going and get it out of the way, and then back onto the Oldsmobile, which itself wasn't even that big of a project, but it's certainly more of a project than that lovely 38 Chrysler. So the plan is kind of get the Chrysler so that it can be driven starting in the spring, and then jump back on the Oldsmobile and keep hammering through that. And then there's the Cadillac and but for sure, that Chrysler is such a good car. Yeah, so we've got excitement coming there, including a couple of interesting undiagnosed problems with the car that we didn't notice, but actually turned out that they have very happy solutions to them. So that's awesome. Yeah, so anyway, the Imperial, definitely something that I'm looking forward to as well. The Best Car Channel beard. Yeah. Thanks very much, Martin. Ray's Bullshit Channel. Hope you'll be able to get a hold of a Graham Page. Yes, one of these days, the spiritual ancestor of the Kaiser Fraser. One day, perhaps, yes. I'd like a shark nose Graham. That would be pretty awesome. Old beaters, your schedule must be hard to manage. Well, unfortunately, what makes it hard to manage is that it's not much of a schedule. It's mostly, everything is kind of, what are you doing right now? The only thing that's scheduled is that those videos go up on Saturday at 2. But the rest of it is, well, it's really dependent on the free time that my friends have, because the only person whose job this is mine, and they all have their own jobs and careers and lives entirely. And so if I'm trying to, ingratiate myself into their lives and projects, then I have to do it at their convenience. So it just means that, like, somebody like Dan might say he's off at 5, but if there's a situation at work, he's not off till 7. And so it's more like I will just, I'm just going to amuse myself until people contact me. And maybe with luck tonight, we'll get to go over to Jim's and help on the Mark II Continental again. But if Jim's busy, then I'm going to go out and I'm going to finish the brakes on my Volvo. So I wish it was a schedule. That would actually be easier. So it is 7 days a week, 365 a year though. Like you guys can look back through the archives there and see how many Saturdays I've not put up a video, and it's 0 for a long, long time. So we are getting there. Classic Reaction, $10. Thanks so much, man. From the mountains of northern Pennsylvania. Well, that is fantastic. I have never been. I've been through the northern states many years ago, but I seem to have lost most of my paperwork over the years, and now I probably don't have clearance to go to the store. So just stay here. Yes, Kurt, that was the last thing I did on the Roadster, was making the exhaust ports on the hood. I've got both sides roughed together, and then it was there was a couple of weeks there where I thought that, what I'm going to do, because I'm just running out of time, is I'm just going to not sleep one night a week. And so that was when I was getting those things done. But I found that there's only X number of productive hours in your brain. And if you front load them all to one day, it just takes it out of the next day. So in the end, it turned out to be not any more productive to not sleep at all. So I decided that anyway, that's just, I tried. I really did try. I actually am willing to not even sleep if it gets these things done any faster, but it actually doesn't. Unfortunately, there's, anybody who's tried just staying up all night figuring you can just drink coffee and stuff, you can, but then the next day you're kind of just a piece of crap. You're not really good for anything. So, Zenny asks, how often does the band rehearse, or do you guys just learn the songs at home and then play when you get together? The band, such as it is, rehearses just whenever. Another thing that we can't schedule because everybody who's in that in the band. Now we should clarify that there's by band we mean we're talking about the one with me on guitar and Ashley singing and Andy on bass and Jay on guitar and Kevin on drums. That is our kind of our Coldwarmotors house band, and that is just whenever. Yeah, like we for a while when we first started, we were rehearsing once a week or so until but now honestly everybody's so busy and now, so honestly, it's, if we're lucky, once a month we get together and try and learn a song. We sometimes, what we'll do if we have to learn a new song is we'll just tell everybody to listen to the song, and then when we get together, we'll try and play it. And nobody in the band, and I use that term loosely, is a musician, including me, right? So these are all people who do not, other than in that bar at that time, that is music time, and the rest of their lives have almost nothing to do with that. So, it's not like this band does not play very much at all outside of that room. And there's sometimes you see me up there with my friend Pete, and I'm on bass, and Matt from Strong's Garage is on guitar. That's not a band either. That's just some guys those two guys are actually musicians, Pete and Matt. And sometimes they'll let me play bass with them. And that is, that's not a band either, but a fantastic group of fellows. And usually that's like once or twice a year I get together with those guys and we have some fun. So yeah, the band is a lot less structured or serious than I think it might appear. But it is strictly for fun. Nobody's a musician, just having some laughs with your friends. Greetings from Sweden. Thank you very much. Good luck with continued with the 60. Well, thank you. Sorry, guys, I'm already way behind here. Mopar Pollock, Datsun dust in soon. Yes, probably starting as early as next week. And $5 Roadster Thursdays. Yeah, I could be talked into it. Again, I already spread pretty thin, and it's Thursdays happen to be the only day that works for Jim and or Dan. And I like to get out the house and show what my friends are doing as well. So Duncan says, I'd love to have Jonathan W. visit the CWM guys. Oh, so would I. I don't think Jonathan's got any reason at all to come up here, and I only have one tractor. So it's very unlikely. But I do have a tremendous amount of respect for Jonathan, and it would be, I'd like to chat with him on the phone one day. I've actually never talked to him. But there's a guy, I mean, that guy, he's not just some bum messing around in his yard. That guy is busy, and he's a serious guy. So I think I have a lot more spare time than him, and I don't have a lot. William says, you haven't acquired a DeSoto yet? That is true. I guess the thing is with that is I decided, because there's so many cars out there, that I was like, okay, well, if you're going to collect any forward look cars, you have to narrow it down, because otherwise you'll just buy everything. And so I decided, well, Plymouth hardtops 57 to 61, that's already a pretty daunting task just to put those together. So I'm not going to buy any Chryslers. Well, I bought the one, but that was just like saved from the crusher kind of situation. But I'm not actively pursuing anything other than 57 to 61 Plymouths. And I already have all of those that I want. So the only thing that'll get me to buy any of those would be if it's going to save me a significant amount of time versus the ones I have now in terms of building them. But they're all roughly the same. Even the ones that look okay, when you take them all apart, it's just more rusty garbage. I might as well just keep the rusty garbage I've got. So that's just just being realistic about the amount of time that a guy has. And it's, and 59 Buick was a car I always wanted. 60 or 59 Impala was a car I always wanted. And so when those come along, I bought those, and there's 5 years of work right there. So to just be piling more cars in the yard here, then you're just storing them for somebody else, really, at that point. So, I do wish that, if I could live for 500 years, well, I'd probably have 1,000 years worth of projects out there. So I just have to, kind of keep it together a little bit. Plus, the cost of the car is just the price of the shovel. And then you use the shovel to dig the real hole. So I have to be careful that every $100 piece of crap or $1,000 junker car you buy is at bare minimum $10,000 in exhaust, tires, glass, brakes, and the things that I, chrome, all the stuff. I can still do a lot myself, but I can't make my own tires. I can't make my own windshields. I can't do my own chrome plating. So, no matter how much of it and how much of your own time you're going to put in, there's still a gigantic amount of well, not gigantic when you compare what it would cost to drop something like that 60 Impala off and say, call me when it's done. That would be expensive. So, but if you've got 10 old junkers and you think you can restore each one for $10,000 in parts, that's still $100,000. And I got 50 out here. So I've got to just, start or try being a little more realistic. I don't know. I'm having a lot of fun, and I'm going to get through as many of them as I can. And at a certain point, I might, and I've talked about this with Dan, look at with that Imperial, how much we don't have to do. There's no welding. There's no painting. We don't even have to do the exhaust. The car is quiet. So when you start, and that really, you can knock 3 years off of a project by spending an extra $3,000 up front versus buying a $1,000 field car, buy a $5,000, neglected car with some needs, but it's not a welding project. And that's the big thing. And if I had any advice, not that people should take advice from me, but if I could say something I've learned, even if I don't take my own advice, would be if you can avoid the welding project, because even if you're a good welder, that's a huge amount of time. It's just the time. And cutting the welding out of the project, and then you're just like, oh, well, now it's just essentially everything's just a tune-up and brake job at that point. And you can put cars together 3 a year instead of 1 every 3 years. So anyhow, he's got Kyle and CWM live. Oh, that's awesome. Cheers. What? Is Kyle here? No. Anyway, sorry guys, I'm already lost. Oh great. Oh, Martin Wright, 5 pounds. Thanks very much. Love, thanks for all you do. Thanks very much, Martin. It's very cool of you. You guys, that's always very much appreciated. As I was saying, if you're worried that I won't spend it on car parts, you don't need to worry, because that's about all there is. All right. Yes. And well, I'm gratified to see some support for the, some Roadster project. I really would like to finish it. It's, it's a big project. It's another stupid thing that I thought would take 2 weeks, and that was 10 years ago. Now it's, could I finish it in 2 weeks? And we talked about it, and we've talked about lots of stuff. We were going to do it last summer. This summer, I actually spent most of my time rebuilding the house here, and so there was no great big group project. Last year, we did the V8 Showdown, which I really thought was a lot of fun, and I think it made interesting, material to watch and to do. And in the end, we got a couple of junkers running. It's not like we've really massively, built any value into them, but it was still a lot of fun. And we thought about doing the Roadster instead of that, but I've done the math to some extent, and it's just not as interesting a project from the point of view of the audience. It's not relatable. Nobody got dropped off at swimming lessons in a homemade Roadster car, so you're not going to have that. There's no nostalgia vibe to it. It's not actually an old car. It's made from scratch, so it's not got any historical value other than it's made out of old truck parts. So it is a project that I do want to finish, but I also have to be very realistic about the amount of hours that I can put in and expect people to watch. So Brian Hayes says it's 80 in Florida today. Wow, and you received your calendar. That is very good. Thanks very much, Brian. Thanks everybody who bought one. I was just saying to the patrons of the show that if you haven't received it yet, it's because we have a postal strike going on, but I did get everything in the mail before the strike. So there are no unmailed calendars at my house. So if you haven't received it yet, it will almost certainly still be there before the end of the year. But of course, the postal service here has, they've gone on strike now to leverage the Christmas rush as a negotiating tactic. So that's all stuff that I like to keep far outside of my own my own problems. So again, I will make sure that they all get their, and if anybody's should get lost, I printed extras and I will make sure that you get it. There's a 0% chance that you won't get it. So yes, Mr. Morrison is worried that he won't get, but you absolutely will get it. Don't worry about that, boss. It will be there. Did Colin and Laura lose their farm? No, that is a future situation. The meeting that we were at was to rezone the area, so that was just like, well, once we've rezoned this, now we're saying that all of this stuff can take place, and that when that happens, that will be the end of the farm. So we will see. They have a contingency plan and a property that is literally 4 miles directly north of my house here, and where we shot the V8 drag racing and one of the Model T videos. So if they should have to move, they're they have a pretty solid contingency plan in place already. But it would be unfortunate to have to move off of the farm they've had since 1880. So yeah, that's Binky 750. 50 Buick. Yes, it's on the list. So, hey, look, there's Elton McFall. You guys all know Elton, aka Retro Old School. Cheers. I like to bullshit with Elton on the phone. So much fun. I hope you guys are all watching Elton's videos. That is awesome. A terrific painter and another YouTube veteran from Elton's been on YouTube longer than I have, and there's not many of us in the 15 years and more file. So that is really cool. There's a few of us. Elton hasn't gotten as old looking as I have, that's for sure. Brendan in Newfoundland. Hope you guys keep up the good videos. Thanks so much, Brendan. That's cool. Just about to tune into Kyle Carter, but that can wait. Oh, is Kyle going? He better not be doing a live show at the same time. If he is, let me know, and I'll get out of the way, and he can carry on. I did not know. No? Okay. Anyway, you guys let me know. I'm sorry. I don't really plan these things very carefully, as you might have noticed. Joel F. Hey, Joel. Joel was one of the few people we met driving the Citroën to Montreal. Also checking in from Saskatoon. Good evening, Joel. Cheers, buddy. Brian asked, what are the plans for the old red pickup store in the Red Barn? No plans yet. That truck came with this property when I bought it. And so I rescued it from a building that had fallen on it, and I kind of put it inside there, got it running. I don't know. I was going to restore it. Then I realized that thing restored would still be useless. It's, I think what I'd like to do with it is, because the chassis is shot, the engine shot, the transmission shot, the brakes are shot, the kingpins are shot, the whole thing is shot and seized and terrible, but the body's pretty good. And I was thinking eventually I would like to put the body of the Ford truck onto my diesel chassis, and then I would actually have a nice classic Ford truck with a properly, modern-ish usable diesel drivetrain, and then it could be my parts truck / shop truck / tow truck, and be kind of fun. And I don't really want to sell the truck ever, because I don't want to separate it from this property, which where it has been since it was new, I assume. So that's kind of the plan with the truck, is eventually when my Dodge gets too rusty, I will swap on the much more interesting Ford body. And sorry guys, I'm just trying to get caught up here. Sorry guys. Brandon, Manitoba, thanks very much. Frosticure. And hey, Brian, the old Jeep guy got his calendar. That's perfect. Thanks so much, Brian. Thank you guys, everybody who bought one. I'm going to keep doing them every year so far. At least I hope to. It is really a lot of fun. William asks, are you, Dean, Dan, Stephen, and Jim the only agents in the car business? Well, Dean isn't really in the car business, except in the flip business. Dan and Paul are both in the car business. Steven's a mechanic, and Jim, of course. Well, Ashley is too. Ashley is in the aftermarket business. He imports and distributes aftermarket car parts. So there's that. But yeah, I guess I think you're pretty close to right there. Yeah. So sorry, I'll try to keep up, guys. Old Beater said, love the band. Well, thank you very much. We're just having fun. It's just fun. Hey, there's Mopar Ed. Cheers. Happy Thanksgiving to you, buddy. That was awesome. Thank you for stopping in. And we're just hanging out. I'm hoping that we can hang until I have to go to Jim's, if he's going to be working on the Continental tonight. Obviously, we have a few more minutes of work to put into that puppy. Somebody Easy is asking, are you chopping the roof on the Nash? It would be glorious. No, I'm not planning to. I'll put it that way. I don't think that would be the car to chop personally. It would be hard enough just to put that car back together to be anything, frankly. I think that car, the smart money would be, do you find a better one of those and you use that, the one I have here, for parts? But they're not really falling out of trees, those things. So we'll see what happens with the Nash. I do love the Nash, but even I have to be a tiny bit realistic. That is a pretty rough car. It is smashed and rusty and badly fixed and then smashed again. So it's not a real A-lister, I guess. Harry Blue Max asks, how old is the Flying V? I don't think it's that old. I don't remember. It's not a vintage. It's between 10 and 20 years old. It's one of the reissues. I think it's a 2008 reissue of a 1979 model. It's not the actual 1970. Does that sound familiar? I don't know. You guys probably know more about those than I do. I just wanted a black and white Flying V because it's cool. Like, that was the one I wanted. And when I found that one, it was in good shape, and so I grabbed it. But no, I don't have the budget or the any real need to collect actual pedigree proper vintage guitars. I just it's just outside of my, like, at least if I'm buying old cars, I know what I'm getting, but there's a lot to buying guitars that I just don't know, and I just buy the ones I think look cool. I'm not a good enough player that it makes any difference, and I like to buy the ones that I thought looked cool when I was a kid, which is V's, Explorers, Firebird, SG, shit like that. But none of them are proper vintage guitars. They're real Gibson guitars, but they're not, they're reissues of the classics. They're not the real thing. Hey, Old Paracao Store, Cafe and Bar. How's it from New Zealand? Hey, you guys check out their channel. They've got some awesome cars there. I'm happy to see you making so much progress on your 52 Chev that you're masking it up. That is awesome. Cheers from another guy who paints his own cars in his garage. That is awesome. Where can we find the band songs on YouTube? Oh, I don't think you can, other than the little snippets I put in there. As I said, once I put in more than 30 seconds and they demonetized my whole week's work for that. So I got a little, I'm now very, I'm very wary of putting even 20 seconds of music in that somebody could claim. So I have to be very careful about that kind of thing. I like putting it in just for, like having a little party, whatever, having some fun. But the whole YouTube landscape is just so indecipherable to me now that it kind of makes you a little bit gun shy. So no plans really to put the band as its own separate thing on YouTube. It's just, nobody's a musician. We're just having some laughs, but very kind of you. The music that's in the show in the background, that I just do it on this computer here in my room with the guitars and whatever's in here. So that is strictly written just for the show. It's not really meant as a standalone thing. So, oh, well, thanks very much. It looks like you're having fun, and that is exactly it. It's just for fun. As soon as it becomes a job, ditto for the YouTube itself, and with me going over and helping my friends and stuff, as soon as it's like, you have to do this, then it's not fun, then it doesn't work at all. So there's going to be weeks when it's just, well, I'd rather put up nothing than force my friends or get in people's way or be a pain in the ass, because it just, suddenly the whole thing just doesn't work. The only reason that it's worked and been able to go on for so long is because it doesn't interfere in my friends' lives, and it stays casual and fun and low key, and there's no, we got to get it done for the as soon as it's that, then well, then that's not fun, and it's also, it's it defeats the whole purpose of what we're trying to do. So, like the Cramps Sick Cars reference. Oh, I'm not familiar with the Cramps, but I'm sure I would like it because I've heard of the Cramps. But thank you very much for the suggestion. I'm sure Bunny knows the Cramps, but I do not. She's much more in tune with the music scene than I ever was. Cosmic Virgo Josh asks, would you want to do a quad manifold for your Poly? I do have one, and I thought about it, and I'm considering it. I'm considering it because I do have the manifold, and I do have the carburetor, and the carburetor is even rebuilt and ready to go. And I really did think about doing it. But honestly, like, I don't know. The only reason I would do it is because it looks cool. That's the thing. I didn't, if I was building these cars to try and go fast, I wouldn't start with full size cars like that anyway. And I'm not, if you really want to go fast, you do a big block anyhow. So yeah, I don't know. I have the stuff to do it. The only reason I would do it is because you get the cooler air cleaner, but it's not really, I guess the thing is, if it was my only car, it would be getting all of that, right? But when I'm trying to build a collection of cars, no one of them needs to be taking up the budget of two other cars. And by budget, I mean time, as much as, the budget money-wise is very minimal on all the cars. The budget for parts, it has to be absolutely bare minimum. Otherwise, it is unrealistic. Otherwise, you might as well just start buying good ones. So, and I don't want to do that because what's the fun in watching a guy shine up somebody else's work? I don't want to watch that. And anytime you think you're buying a good car, you get it home and it's shit anyway. So, I'd rather buy junk that's at least obviously junk rather than junk that's dressed up to look like something that's not junk, which happens, and I'm trying to be careful, but as soon as you buy something without seeing it on the phone and you get there and you're like, great, it's junk. Why did I think this wouldn't be junk? Like, how stupid are you? So, yeah, I from now on, I'm just back to buying junk because at least then I'm the guy that fixes it and not rebuilding somebody else's garbage. So, Ed says, Fred the GTX and I wish all the safest and warmest for the holidays. Well, thank you so much, Ed. Ed, a very long time supporter of what we're trying to do here. And thank you so much, buddy. I think Ed and a few other people can be single-handedly credited with me not quitting doing this about 8 years ago. So thank you, buddy. It means a lot to me that you guys would show up here. Peter 72 says, maybe you'll accidentally acquire it. So fair enough. Kyle Carter, what are you... Any updates on the Gravely? You know what? Just for you, Kyle, we'll put an update on the Gravely in this weekend's video. Remind me, Bun, to put an update of the Gravely in this weekend's video. Okay, Kyle, you'll get your update. I think it'll make some people sad. It made me sad. But I'll put it this way. The Gravely ain't going anywhere. There's John. Hey, Scott. Hey, John. There's another John Powell. Hey, Kyle. Hey, Kyle. Kyle's awesome. You guys, I'm assuming, are all subscribed to Kyle's channel pretty soon. Kyle will have more subscribers than me. Well-deserved, buddy. Cheers. That is awesome. Kyle's back working on Canada's coolest custom truck project right now. Kyle's GMC or Chevy... what do they call those? Design, new design, something like that. Anyway, the chicken truck project, one of the coolest cars that's going to come out of this country or ever has. So I hope you guys are checking it out. That thing it just makes me smile because it's exactly, just seeing that thing, it looks like it come out of one of those early 50s magazines, which is, of course, when you set out to do that and your name is Kyle, that's how it's going to turn out. That's awesome. I can't wait till Kyle brings it over and we can paint it Pepto pink with teal swoosh graphics on the side, with a little splash maybe down to the bottom with the 15-inch saw blades with white letter BFGs. You know it, Kyle. That's coming. Oh man. Oh, Danny's here. Cheers, Danny. And somebody says I see a Telecaster base behind you. Oh, there's a SG base up there, and this you mean right? Oh, that's a P base. Yeah, it's just that's just what I use for making the music for the show. I have a Hofner bass, which I like to play. Oops, now it's all just falling over. Whatever. Yeah, I actually would be shopping for a Rickenbacker bass. I just, again, not because of anything other than how cool do those look, right? Like, uh, so David asks, would you consider doing a dealer sticker T-shirt like the one in the opening instead of the specific one's vehicle? Oh, sure, I guess. I mean, um, just a quick note: the store, the Coldwarmotors.com online store, is going to be going away for a while we revamp that. We kind of sold out of everything that we had to sell there, and so now we're going to just take a short break. Make sure that certainly during this postal strike is a good time as any to sort this out, but it'll be back in the new year. If anybody's wondering, I know we got several requests to reissue the old shirts. So I think we might start with that as a grand opening kind of situation. We might re-release all of the old shirts that we've had available in the past. And I don't remember, there's probably at least half a dozen, maybe more. And so we might do that as a way to bring it back. And so the stickers and this type of thing will all be available again soon. Thank you guys, everybody who bought anything in the past from there. It has been one of the things that has kept this going. I was just talking to the patrons of the show about the same kind of situation, and it is increasingly difficult to make a living on YouTube unless you want to put literally 30 commercials in a hour-long video, and I refuse to do it. I certainly put a few in because you have to, or YouTube will just bury your video. And plus, I mean, it does pay a little bit, and I have to justify doing this 7 days a week, 365. So, but I do literally, when I write in there, like, thanks to the patrons, I deleted 19 breaks from this week's video. I'm not making that up. That is and when I started doing YouTube, I said, don't do anything that you wouldn't watch yourself. And when I get to a show and there's 29 commercial breaks in it, I just can't take it. So I'm like, why would you subject the people that like watching what you're doing to that? So it's because of the people who bought shirts and stickers and cups and calendars, and the people on Patreon. That's the only reason the show is still going, and so it is genuinely appreciated. I'm not, I'm not just saying that to be nice. Without that, it just can't happen, because the alternative is that you just turn your show into TV like everything else YouTube has become. And, I'm just very fortunate that there is a tiny number of us out there who think that what we're doing here is worth trying to keep going. So thank you guys. And now back to trying to answer some questions. I'm sorry, I don't know how far behind I am on the little thing on the side, but Evo Dubs got their calendar. Thank you very much, buddy. That's very cool. Thank you for ordering one. I'm going. Oops, jeez. Sorry. Where? Sorry, guys. I just. Well, hang on. Somebody had a great question, and now I can't find it. There we go. When will we see the old Hemi on the engine run stand? That's a great question, and it's one that I will ask Dan. I'll tell you what, though, I can tell you that it is already set up on the stand. When we took my Buick engine off, we put the Hemi on at the same time. So it's really just a question of whenever Dan wants to take the time to fire it up. The thing is that we got Dan has about 4 hours of free time a week, and we've gotten ourselves pretty deep into getting that 38 Imperial going. So we are kind of, I think since the vehicle that the Hemi is going in is not currently being done, there's no actual hurry on the Hemi. I know he wants to fire it, and that was the plan. And frankly, I think if he hadn't ended up with that Imperial, we would have already fired the Hemi, because it is literally 1 day away from being ready to fire. But the Imperial is just such a nice, easy, straightforward project, and in such good shape that it seems it would be silly not to get that thing roadworthy so that he can drive it next summer. And also, of course, I'm pretty excited to get a ride in that myself. And I can take a tiny amount of credit for Dan ending up with that, because I kind of shuffled him in. I was like, dude, you have to drive my 37 Chev. And he said, well, here's the thing. If I drive that, I'm probably going to really like it. And then I'm going to want a car like that. And I was like, yes, get in and drive it. And then he drove it for about a half an hour, and we drove around, and he said, yes, now I need one of these. Yeah, great. And so, not content with just buying a Plymouth or whatever, he bought an Imperial just to make me jealous for making him drive the Chevy. The Imperial is just a magnificent car. So I can't really fault him for wanting to put that at the front of the line, because that's what I would do. So get back at the Will Tillart says, how about Thursday Roadster instead of the 10-minute videos? Well, I could. I think the thing with it is to, I just couldn't, it would be tricky, I think, to make anything watchable out of one afternoon, on the car a week. Not discounting the idea, but again, I'm really, it's like with Dan and the Imperials, it makes more sense for me right now to, like, let's get the SM done, because the Roadster needs way more hours than the SM, and then the SM can be out of there and it can go in the finished pile. And the trouble has been thus far that if you're looking at all of your projects, and virtually all of them are less work than the Roadster. And so it just means, it doesn't mean it ain't getting done, but there's we've gone over the reasons why it doesn't have priority. Tell you what, if I had made a video about working on the Roadster and it got 2 million views, then all those other cars can sit around and I'm going to finish the Roadster. But it's just not the case. It's actually the opposite to some extent. The videos with that car get less views and the car needs more work. So why not, if we're trying to balance, it's not like the cars that I am working on are cars that I haven't always wanted, right? The Roadster car I started on a whim because I thought it wouldn't take very long, and I was wrong. So that's on me. But the other cars, and I really thought when I did the first video about the Roadster, I thought, oh, people are going to be very excited because they think I just work on these old Plymouths and station wagons and crap and French junk. And then I did the video about introducing the Roadster project and a couple of videos about building some parts for it. And they didn't really, it's not like nobody watched it, but certainly didn't. More people are excited about the 72 Plymouth station wagon. So since I want both at this point, maybe the Roadster doesn't get done until I, for whatever reason, the YouTube channel has to come to an end. I mean, we have to be realistic. I don't know how many YouTube channels last 20 years, and we're coming up 15. So, it's just, we'll just see. I'd like to finish it, but again, we'll just see how it goes. OKS and Sundry received their calendar. Looks great. Well, thank you very much. Old Beater 72 also liked the calendar. Well, thanks very much. Brian has a good point. Finish the Roadster just to collect your $5 from Tom. Well, that's also a totally legit point. And believe me. What's that? Oh, inflation. Bunny says he should owe me 200 now because inflation. Yeah. And Robin asks if he's the only one who wants the SM work done. Well, I certainly do, Robin. So actually, I was going to make that today's Thursday video, but just to every tiny little piece of that SM is a commitment in time. But we're going to moving a workbench next to the SM, which is going to be just used for assembling the front end with the headlights and all that stuff. And I told myself when I got that car, first you build the front end, because the whole rest of the car put together isn't as much work as the front end. So that's the plan: get the front end, the headlights working, get all of that hydraulic bullshit sorted out and in there. And then when the front end looks good, I'm going to literally bag it all off, and then we'll start on the rest of the car. The front fenders are already done. So really, it's a matter of fixing the doors, fixing the quarters, and throwing some paint at it, and it's on the road. The car runs great. The brakes work. The interior is perfect. The glass is perfect. It's not really that big of a project, except that it's an SM. So, it's a big project. Just things that you would think would be very simple on any other car, on those cars, are just like, oh, well, there's 15 relays and 14 hydraulic lines because you want to change the wiper motor or whatever. Like they're a complex car. So Little Railroader got theirs. Thanks very much for ordering a calendar. Paul Barrel, thank you very much, buddy. The heavy paper pulled the nail out of the wall. Awesome. That is great. Thank you very much, Ed. I'm happy you guys got your calendars. I'm very proud of it, and I recognize that it was not the cheapest car calendar out there, but I thought, if we're going to do this and we're going to ask money for it, then it has to be good. And I've seen lots of car calendars, and I've always found them disappointing and cheap and not very thoughtfully put together. And so I thought, well, I've always been a money where your mouth is guy. So I was like, I'm going to make a car calendar that maybe I would think was cool. So I tried, and again, it has to be relevant to the show. Otherwise I wouldn't have, picked just my junk. I would have put better cars in it. But I owe any success of that to my friend James, the photographer. For a fellow who is not a professional photographer, you sure would never know it from the quality of the work. The biggest problems we have putting that calendar together are actually just picking the photos from, like, for the first calendar we did, I think he shot something close to 3,000 pictures, and we had to pick 12. And so, and a lot of those are shot on a motor drive and whatever. But he is a fantastic photographer, and actually Colin's nephew, believe it or not, and a very experienced airline pilot. So that's his real job, and the cars and the photography is just goofing off. So really fun. I always look forward to when James can come up and we take pictures. Very proud of the photos and proud of the calendar. So thank you guys. I'm going to keep doing them, and I just think it's a fun little project that I never thought that when I was a kid that there would be some part of my life would come where I would be shooting an automobile calendar featuring my own cars. So just a fun, weird thing that happened in life, and I love it. Let's see. Sorry, I have to skip ahead a bit. Sorry, guys. It's obviously not meant to slight anyone. It's just I see that I'm already an hour behind on the questions. P bass or jazz bass? That is a P bass. Andy, my brother, has a jazz bass that he plays in the bar, and I have a couple of other basses, but this behind me that I use for making the music for the show is just a P bass. It's a P bass copy. It's probably from the 70s. It's nice, good bass, stays in tune. That's all I care about. It's the furthest I've traveled to retrieve a car. I don't remember. Maybe. Well, Laura's Rover came from BC, but I didn't go. Colin went for that. I went all the way to past Calgary for that crumbly old Nash out in the yard, just because cheap Nashes are hard to find. Yeah, if we're talking about yard cars, most of them come within 20 miles of here, or even 100. But to go 200-300 miles out of my way for a $500 field car, that's about as far as I would go. I've bought cars from as far away as Winnipeg, but that was, years ago, not anything to do with the show. My 67 Fury came from Winnipeg, and I'll tell you how long ago I bought that is, my dad flew out on a business meeting and drove it back from Winnipeg. And so that was in 1986. Let's see. Any timetable to getting on the fridge truck? Not yet, Tom. Again, I think right now my current focus is let's not have too many cars dismantled at the same time. And so we are really making some effort to just wrap up the SM, the Buick, the Impala, and then I'd like to get on to the traction Avant. What else was there? I got a few other cars. I don't know. There's lots. I'd like to do another forward look car. Dave Pitts asked, "How's Dean?" Dean is awesome. He was over a couple days ago, and we were working on the Volvo. And Dean's really good. He's got a great girl, and he's working hard. And we're gonna, if we're lucky, we get to hang out with Dean on Sunday. And if the weather's not horrible, and maybe even if it is, we are going to be doing a Greasy Flips episode because Dean's got some new inventory. And I think you guys get a kick out of it. Some of it's, of course, what you would expect, and some of it maybe not so much. I like going out to Dean's yard there because there'll be, what you would expect. And then that time there was like a 71 Fiat there, which he found a home for right away, which is cool. So always fun to go hang out with Dean. Dean was over, we feed him dinner sometimes because I think he just eats noodles like I used to. For sale signs on them. Well, I thought of that, honestly. I don't really go out of my way to sell them, not because I think, well, a lot of them they seem like they're there for no reason at all, but a lot of them, like, for example, there are cars there that I bought just for the bumper, and when I'm done, whatever car that needs that bumper, then that car will get sold. I want to get the Volvo finished because I have a Volvo parts car in the back, then that can go away. I think some of the cars, like, I'm not going to get rid of the SM parts cars because, if you have an SM, SMs are basically parts cars. So you need like 3 of them to keep one running. So we won't be doing that. Some of the cars I would sell the 56 Plymouth, but honestly, for what the car's worth, and then to try and book my weekends where I wish I might be somewhere else, I just don't care. A lot of them, I'll probably give a bunch of them to Dean when I run. I've given Dean lots of cars just to get them out of my yard. I can't really be bothered with the time it takes to try and sell cars that, I've had people come up here and they want to buy a car and they want to make payments on a car that's like $500. Like, you know what I mean? Like, no, I would rather just give it to Dean and he can do whatever he wants, because maybe he'll take payments on a $500 car. I just can't, and it's just time. And, and the other thing is, if I sell some of these cars, what you guys know, what percentage of project cars ever actually see the road again? Not very many. So if it's just going to be an abandoned project that gets scrapped, it might as well just sit here and be all in one piece. And then maybe one day the right person comes along, or maybe I just have an auction one day and then you get rid of it all. That's a way I think that maybe it'll go eventually, is I'll say, look, okay, we're going to auction off these 20 cars, and then I just have to whatever I get is what I get, and then it's gone. And that is a more realistic way when you have too many cars, especially when they're not roadworthy cars, and I'm getting to the point now where I'm not making any roadworthy cars that I wouldn't keep anyway. If I'm going to all the trouble to put these cars together to get them onto the road, then it's got to be a car that I really wanted anyway, because otherwise it's just a waste of time, because you do not, you don't make any money. Anybody who's restoring cars and then selling them and making a profit and making a good hourly wage is either very lucky, or you're hosing somebody, because it's almost impossible. But you can, or you buy very slightly distressed cars and you polish them up really nice and you fix the one or two things and then you make some money, maybe. But it's not really, I mean, I like to think that part of what we're doing here is like, let's take stuff that everybody else would throw right in the baler and try and, because then you're actually saving a car. And that's the thing when I see cars that are like, somebody says, oh, you should buy this or that, and it's $7,000 and it's in really good shape and it's a car that I'm like, well, the car's not in any danger of going in the crusher if I don't buy it, because whoever owns it obviously understands that it's not crusher food. So, you know, I just buy the crusher food and I enjoy the process. I like to walk by my cars and go, you know, I know every bolt on that car and I put it together and I can vouch for the following parts on it. And I also know that, that's pretty used. That little piece of that car is not great, but you know, I'm driving it anyway. So I guess that's why I was never really in the game to flip cars. I just can't, I don't really, you know, I don't like having people I don't know come over here and pick away at stuff. And then, you know, and I'm sure you've run into this where, like, is a guy really going to come over here and grind on a $500 car and save $100 on it and then drag it home and actually put the $30,000-$40,000 into restoring it? Like, you were grinding on the 500. Like, if you don't have the 500, you don't have the 50K that it's going to take to put it back together. So that car has 0% chance that it's ever getting done. And so you might as well just sit here, you know. Now I am running out of space and I have a few cars that I would sell just because they don't have a purpose here. Generally the policy is if somebody should restore it, but I'm not going to, then it's for sale. So that would be the 56 Plymouth I have. I think that's a very restorable car. I'm not going to ever do it because I got enough of I really like 57 to 61. So I'd sell the 56 Plymouth if the right person came along. But if they don't, whatever, it can sit there. I don't care. But I can't be bothered to advertise because it's not worth enough that I'm going to shoot up my Saturdays waiting for somebody to show up and be like, oh, I thought it'd be better. And I just, who cares? I just can't be bothered. Oh, sorry, guys. I'm getting behind. I'm just going to try to catch up a bit. Is it turkey in the Great White North today? Well, no, our Thanksgiving, somebody pointed out, it's the third Monday of October, I think, or I don't know. It's a different day. So we've already done ours. Thank you guys all so much. It's so great to see so many of the same names that I see in the comment section. It's very cool of you guys. Wow, 500 plus people here. Well, if anybody, geez, now we should do something funny, I guess. D Wood got the calendar, first class photography. Again, thank you. All credit to my friend James, who literally hung himself out the back of my Citroen station wagon with his camera 3 inches off the road to get those shots as we drove various cars around. And a great fun day. I'm sure the neighbors wondered what the hell was going on after about the 8th time we went out there with with the tractor behind, and oh my god, it was fun. Blackface Son of Castro, terrific name, thank you. I'd love to see you do a top chop on something. Yeah, well, I did do that Volvo. I'd like to do something too. I think I would like to do a full custom car. Of course, now that Kyle has started doing a full custom car, anything I do would seem rather tossed together. But one day, I've always wanted to do one, and I've always thought, you know, no matter where you went, no matter what was in the parking lot and how cool it was, as soon as those chopped cars came in and they were just really low, man, everything else just didn't look as cool, you know. So there's, you know, I recognize how special that stuff is, and I do want to do one. I thought about doing my 50 Plymouth 2-door sedan that's out there. I guess the thing with that is that car is quite rotten. So what would, you know, you'd want it to be a full custom car, but at first it would have to be a massive rust reconstruction before you could even, you know, have enough of a car hanging there that you could start chopping it up. You know, I would see about it, and maybe one day, I guess, you know, it's just the time, and I've, you know, been kind of careless in the sense that I've, accumulated a lot of cars and some pretty ambitious goals for some of them. And I think I want to get the current projects tidied up, and then I can say, okay, now are we going to do a custom car? Okay, because if you are, then you're not going to do this. And then if you're going to fix this car, you're not going to fix that car. So I'm going to, and I've been trying to do that. And it is tricky because every time I buy a car, I think, well, this, you want to, it's new and exciting. So you want to push it up to the front of the line. But then, and I've been a little better lately about like, okay, but you thought that about this car when you bought it and it's still sitting here. So get that one done first. So, Bill said YouTube is throwing commercials on a live chat. Yes, they are. I turned the commercials down to the bare minimum. I'm sorry, guys. Again, that's just how it operates now. So yeah, new YouTube law. They said big channels can use any music, no copyright. Yeah, well, this will never be a big channel, but there's I'm sure there's a different set of rules for their preferred channels, and that's fine. I'm not too worried about what the big channels are doing. Phil, hey Phil, Phil's sent us so much fantastic stuff over the years. Phil is in Ontario, and now the DD Speed Shop has moved to Calgary. Do you think Edmonton has any Tri-5s for him? Well, the thing is, if Dan is in Alberta, then he knows of every Tri-5 that is for sale in Alberta, and then some, probably. So I know if if there's something in Edmonton that he wanted, I would of course be happy to go get it and store it here for him until he had time to come and pick it up. I'm sure he's got, well, I know for sure he's got 3 on the go right now, 3 or 4 on the go right now. He has threatened to stop in and hang out one day, so I hope that happens. But that is entirely up to him. I know, I'm not sure if everybody understands just how busy of a dude Dan is because he's so easygoing, but that is an extremely driven and extremely busy fellow with a lot on the go. And, so I think coming up to Junkyard Acres here and hanging around with the laziest person in Canada, maybe not on the top of his list, but maybe one day. I know I've chatted with him on the phone and he's really fun. We'll see. But if he needs me to pick something up, yeah, I've got the room. And now it looks like he does too. He bought a beautiful place in Calgary. Calgary's not cheap either. You gotta be, you gotta be on your game if you live where he's living. That's fantastic. Hey, that's cool. 3.5. Finally got around to painting the stripes on my van. I'm still painting in my garage 40 years later. Me too, buddy. When I realized that if you knew how to polish, that you could paint right in your garage, that just changed the whole game for me. I was like, oh, all you got to be able to do is polish it out when you're done. And, you still have to be able to paint, but every little speck of dust isn't a death sentence now. You can actually get around that. So it's awesome. Mark's Garage giving Kyle a hard time. Motor Town Curiosity sent $10. Thank you very much, man. That is very cool. Thank you. You guys. That is just awesome. As I say, it's very much appreciated, and there's a 0% chance it'll get spent on anything other than car parts. Will till it misses Hot Box and Classic Darts. Well, you're happy to know, Mr. Tillart, that Classic Darts should be back this Saturday. The thing with Classic Darts is a monstrous amount of editing, of course, because you're trying to make it look like a put together production without doing any production or any scripting or anything. So what you end up doing is you film a lot and then you do a lot of editing and you try to make something coherent out of it. And so Classic Darts is the most work out of any of the shows that we do, and it is my favorite as well. And so I'm really happy to hear from anybody who is looking forward to this year's Classic Dart show. We usually only do 1 or 2 a year just because it is a, Al and Justin are both very busy guys and whose lives don't overlap as much as they might like in day to day. So when we can get them both here at the same time, and obviously when we're doing classic darts, there's not a lot of, substantially less productive work going on at the same time. So, but I'm really excited because it should be a very funny episode of Classic Darts with, of course, the return of Dart Girl this year. Cosmic Virgo Josh wants to donate money. Oh, well, thanks very much, boss. Well, underneath the little chat box thing, there's a little rectangle there that you can click on, and it has a dollar bill sign on it. That's the best I can tell you, buddy. And then I don't know, I think somebody comes over to your house and knocks on the door, and then you just like give them some dollars, and then they're like, thanks. And then they run it over here. Something like that. Hope it works out, boss. Cheers. Kyle is hilarious. Yes, exactly. Is Laura's Rover driving? Not yet. No, we are getting there. But I was just saying, we're talking with Stephen about having him do the rest of the mechanical work so that I can finish the body. James Allman, geez, dude, $20. Thanks very much. Well, that's very kind of you guys. I was talking earlier with the patrons, and we are probably gearing up to do around anniversary year 15. I think I would like to upgrade the infrastructure for the show, as in steadier camera, computer that'll handle working 1080, and internet upgrade. So those three things are going to probably happen at the same time, and they will, of course, require an investment. But I think all three of them will help me make more videos quicker and with less stress. Right now, it takes about 6 hours to upload one of the videos. And so it just means if there's anything that's going wrong, that it is extremely stressful. So it would be nice to have a little tighter system here. So that's something I want to work on. But again, that's sometime in the next few months. So, hello from tomorrow in Australia. Hey, Cam Nielsen he's in tomorrow, you guys. So if you had any questions about what's going to happen tomorrow, just to direct them to Cam, and he'll let you know. Bill Joliet, thanks so much for the question. Bill, Beatles fan, how about the Guess Who? Oh, yeah, I'm a fan of all of that. I'm mostly a rock and roll fan for sure. I don't have as much music as I think people might think I do. I never really got into collecting it. I've been very passive about my music consumption. And so, yeah, I just, people are kind of surprised. They're like, where's all your record collection? And I'm like, I got a couple of records, but I just not as much, but of course, the classics, of course, and they're classics for a reason, I guess, I would say, let's see. Oop, what happened here? This thing just jumped again. Oh my God. So we're just gonna stay here. There we go. My brother wonders if Pontiac was available in Canada. Yes, we had Pontiac here. We had different Pontiacs here. We had Canadian Pontiacs. For sure. Sorry, I'm trying to get reoriented. What happens is the machine automatically will jump me to at a certain point, it scrolls to the very bottom of the comments, and I have to kind of scroll back to where I was. I'm sorry, guys. I did not realize I'm like 700 behind here again. So I apologize. It's very difficult to think that we're going to get through everything, in a reasonable amount of time here. Cosmic Virgo Josh, holy cow. Well, he sent me $1.99, then he sent me $19.99. That's very cool, buddy. Thank you very much. And we will definitely we will waste it in the appropriate way. There's going to be a certain amount of expenses coming up, as I said, to upgrade the show itself. Some of you may have seen the video we did with the motorcycles this year, and Dylan had a little, what do you call them, GoPro. And I always thought GoPros were kind of crap, and I'd never really had one. And then I saw the footage that he managed to get, like riding a motorcycle with one hand in the mountains and literally filming your buddies with a stick as they went by. And I was like, that's all just going to look like crap. And it looked great. It was like the best footage I got all weekend was all the stuff that Dylan shot on his motorcycle. So that kind of put that on my list. And I know that we do struggle around here because I don't want it to be scripted and I don't want it to be stand over here and say this. So a lot of it is shot just wandering around with the camera, and it's inevitably choppy and bouncy and it's difficult. And the camera does have some image stabilization, but the stabilization on the GoPro is outrageous. So I'm going to upgrade to that. I hope that there's some way that we can get decent audio out of those things. I know very little about any of this stuff. Considering I've been doing it so long, you'd think I would have looked into a couple of things, but no, nothing. Just cars. So anyway, thanks so much, Josh. That is very cool of you. And yeah, we will be, as I say, it all goes to a good cause. Good cause. Car parts. So yes, we are. We're going to carry on then. Sorry, you guys. I'm going to have to skip ahead a little bit to sorry, I can't read. Hang on a second. There was one I wanted to read. Damn it, is it gone? Oh, man. Who wrote the comment about the Jaguar? Oh, do you think the algorithm would favor your channel if your intro had a bunch of fairies mincing around like the Jag? Now, you probably just got us banned even more, buddy. But would it? Yes, it almost certainly would. And guess we'll just have to take that chance, buddy. I've been watching painters use Rustoleum for base paint, then 4K clears with pearls. Will it stay on cars? Do you recommend it? I guess I don't. I mean, would I do it? No, because I just have way too many hours into these cars to bother trying to save $100 on the paint. The paint is the cheapest, and paint's not cheap. Don't get me wrong; it's $1,000 to paint a car now. But when you got 1,000 hours into it, $1,000 isn't really a big deal. And so I don't get too crazy about mixing house paint with turpentine and then rattle cans. There's a place for that, and I'm all for guys. And those videos get millions of views. I'm sure if I, wanted to just go for, just like, I painted my house with barn paint or painted my car with barn paint, and then I guess you could paint it with barn paint and put, $1,100 worth of high solids clear on top and polish it. It'd look like a mirror. Or you could, spend an extra couple of hundred and paint it the color you actually want. So will it stay on? I have no idea. Do I recommend it? Sure. If you're painting $100 car and you spent one afternoon washing it off, yeah, absolutely. Don't waste $1,000 on paint. It just doesn't come up. If I'm going to do that, I just don't paint it at all. I'd rather just leave it alone than put a crap paint job on something. I'm happy to just leave them alone. But whatever. I mean, there's certainly lots of ways to do that. In my case, if I want it to be nice, and honestly, I just threw out thousands of dollars worth of car paint because I'm trying to clean up my barn. And I was always so careful to save paint because car paint's expensive. So I saved little pints and pints, and sometimes I'd make a few together. And like when we did the Renault, just mix a few together. That's sort of gold, sprayed on. And, so it's not like I'm against saving money or I like spending outrageous amounts of money on DuPont paint or whatever brand I'm using there. I don't have a problem with saving money, and I don't like how much car paint costs. But I guess I'm at the point where if I'm going to put that much time into rebuilding a car and then paint it some shit mix brown that I'll never be able to match. That's the other thing, is if you do spray your shit mix on there, and that's what we called them. It's, you know, we used to make shit mix drinks, and which was just everything that was left over at the end of the party. Well, that's, you know, shit mix paint is just mix a bunch of paint together and it's like, oh, metallic brown. Well, okay, great. On it goes, and it looks okay. Sure, it looks maybe good until you get a chip in it or somebody dents it and you don't have any. Now you have to repaint the whole car. So there's something to be said for having an actual paint code that you can say, I need another quart of 7A blue 1997 Mercury or whatever. And Kyle, bring it home for me, and hey, we got paint. And then you can, you know, blend it and it'll be at least close. So yeah, that's all fine. There's lots of great ways to save money painting cars, as long as you don't care if the color's right and, you know, whatever. But to me, the investment to me is my time, and the materials are insignificant relative to 2 years of your life. Well, I'll spend the $300 on the paint. You know, that's a bar tab for most people. So that's all. That's you know, and I hope that answers your question. I certainly don't object to people doing that, and I'm not like, oh God, what a butcher. Like, go ahead, do it. I think it's awesome, but it just doesn't make sense for me, given the amount of time that I've put into these cars. I need them. I don't need them, but I want them to be the color that I set out to put on them. That's all. And you can't really get 1960 Chevy metallic blue in a Rustoleum rattle can or in like house paint or whatever these guys want to use. And that's great, but it's not 1960 Aqua Beach Boys blue or whatever the hell they called it. You know what I mean? So Mike Goldberg, hey Scott, hey Mike, cheer buddy. Long live classic darts. Thanks, Stranger Sound. That's great. You guys are awesome. Randy, sorry, I thought it said $150. Oh, it does. Holy crap. All right, see you guys later. Thanks so much, Randy. I don't know what to say, buddy. That's extremely egregiously generous and completely uncalled for. And we will definitely waste all of your money on car parts as well. You just single-handedly probably bought me the headliner for the 59 Buick. So thank you so much, man. As everybody knows, we try to do these cars on the lowest budget realistically possible. And, you know, but it is impossible to do them for zero and be happy with what you come up with. So I try to do like if I do the labor, then what little money they do cost can be used to buy the things that have to be right, which to me is glass, tires, headliners, stuff like that. You know, that stuff, there's just no getting away from it. I'm not going to put junkyard all season radials on a car that I spent 5 years restoring. It just, so thank you guys so much. And that's how it gets done. And with all the cars, I like to do all of the work first, because when I get the car to the point where all it needs is money, it's very easy to put that money in, you know, like it's not, whereas like for me to go buy tires and exhaust and chrome and everything on a car that would feel very expensive. But if the car's sitting there painted and the engine's in and running and it's got brakes are done, and you know that if you spend X dollars on this, that you can put a plate on the back, that makes it very easy to do that final push. And the final push is chrome, exhaust, tires, and glass or windshields. Most of the time I can salvage the rest of the glass. And so all that stuff has gotten expensive lately. And but it's like I say, it's easy to put that lump sum in when you know that when that is done, plus a lot of that stuff doesn't involve a bunch of time. It's just straight up money. Like tires are expensive, but you can put a beautiful set of new tires on in a couple hours. And so anyway, just rambling because that's just a crazy amount of money. Thanks so much, Randy. That is very cool of you. And thanks to everybody else as well. And thank you guys for hanging out here. I feel a little bit ill prepared recognizing 500 people here. And I'm just like, oh, I like cars. Durr. So anyway, we are going to carry on. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to skip ahead a little bit. Yes, everybody, kudos to Randy. That is fucking, I mean, that is golly great. Thanks so much, man. Glenn, got your calendar. Thanks. Oh, Canadian Post is off the hook for now. Yeah, well, I think you must have had it shipped. It must have got out before the shutdown. As I say, everybody will get theirs. 100% chance. I bought and printed extras in case if one gets lost, don't worry, you are covered. So thank you guys, everybody. GZ Car asks, who will be the primary driver of the 59 Buick? Let's see. I'm looking at her. No, she's not waving her arms around, so I guess it'll be me. Or maybe Frankers. Where's Menace Boo? Oh, there she is. She's sleeping in her little bed, or I'd get her in here. But, oh, you guys know you can't wake up a sleepy dog, especially one that's just such a terrorist when she is awake. So can we get those model car shows at the beginning of videos? Well, I was doing those with Kyle, and he is kind of out of time for that right now. I did really have a fun time with that. I think we took it as far as I realistically could in terms of trying to get it to look good. At a certain point, those little 30-second intros were starting to take 8-10 hours to put together. And I just have to say, well, okay, that took 8 hours. Did the video get more views than the one where it didn't have that? Did was that 8 hours that you could have spent doing bodywork? And, so that is kind of the situation there. I really like doing that. But one of the things I like to do is I like to do stuff better each time. And it got to the point where you kept trying to, if you watch the first ones we did, were just like two little dinky cars rolling down the side of a guitar case. And then it turned into this big thing with like slow-mo and like, and I would spend a lot of time because, of course, of the way we did it, there needed to be a certain amount of editing and visual kind of trickery put in there. And so those little bits started turning into a gigantic amount of work just because I like things to be better. If I'm going to do it, I want to get better. But we got to the point where we reached the limit of what we could do without it becoming something that was taking up a full day or 2 days of time. It's just too much. And so rather than back it off to something that was kind of half-assed, I just thought, let's stop for now, and maybe we will come up with a way where we can, it also took up a huge amount of room because all those cars were all over the place. And I mean, we literally had hundreds of, they were all over the pool table. They were all over the bar. They were everywhere. And then the little set that we were shooting it on was also, 5 by 10 feet. And it was right in front of the green screen where we like to do the other green screen things. And so it just became this huge monolith for 30 seconds. And so it had to, we just I put them away for now until I think of either we do it outside or we do it in the summer or we do it with real backgrounds instead of green screen backgrounds, but I'm glad everybody got a kick out of that. And I did too. And it was another thing that as a kid, I would have just loved to do. So I wanted to try it. And I think we did, but we took it to the point where it was like, okay, any more than this, and it's just getting to be just way too much time, and it's taking away time from the actual cars, which was the goal. The goal of this channel is not to be famous or to make cartoons or to make music or a band, or the goal of this channel is let's build the cars. And so I try to be conscious that is, we have to be moving that forward. That was why I started doing this. I thought maybe we could build some of my own cars and it would provide some incentive. And because up until I was doing YouTube, the only cars getting built were all the ones for customers. And, and that's great. But I had all these projects and they were just not even getting started. So, for better or worse, YouTube has allowed me to at least move ahead on so many of my own projects, and it's allowed me to find the time to do some pretty massive ones. The Plymouth Fury, that was a big project, like, and so to be able to put projects like that in the garage with plates on them and immediately jump onto the next one, that was the goal of the channel. And so, you know, in the end, although as much as I like all of the other stuff, and the idea was never to you know, YouTube was the means to the end, not the end in itself. And so I try to be, you know, conscious of that when I'm deciding how we're going to spend our time, because it would be very easy, and it is very tempting to really concentrate on making, you know, video content that I think would be, you know, better than what I can do now, but it would come at the expense of the cars getting done. And so finding that balance again, the balance, everything is the balancing the time and the expense and the goal, and respecting my friend's time as well. So anyway, yeah, I hope that answers your question. I'd like to get back at it, but Kyle is also very busy. So, well, thank you guys so much. Some nice words from people. Mike, great work on the music. Oh, thanks very much, Mike. I had fun with some of those, and I like to keep. That's another thing I like to keep trying to do better and do a little more each time. And sometimes that can become, you know, problematic as well. But you know, it's the perfect outlet for me music wise, because I like to write music the way that I'm doing it for the show, which is just half-ass something together that has a cool kind of vibe. And then, but I can't be arsed to write lyrics and oh, there should be a bridge here, and how are you going to fade it out? Or are you going to play the chorus twice? It's like, I don't care. I just want to have the part that goes, and then it's like, okay, now start the show. Enough with the rocking out. Let's go. So there's you know, I do enjoy it. It's the perfect amount of musical work for me, because I'm not a musician, but you know, it forces me a little bit. I mean, I hadn't played before I started playing the keyboards for the show. I hadn't played piano in probably 40 years, so it was fun to kind of like crack the old and get in there and try and remember. I used to know how to play the piano, but boy, that was a while ago. So it is really, it is a fun. We watch all the videos for the funky music. Well, thanks very much, Kevin. That is very kind. Nice that your dad supported your car addiction. Well, he doesn't really he doesn't really support it. He doesn't get it at all, but he's, you know, at least now I'm so old, and he's like, he's just given up trying to change it. But he did drive the 67 Fury back for me. That's right, all those years ago. Wow, Tony Baloney just in from Thanksgiving. Cheers, buddy. Just trying to get caught up a little bit. Sorry, guys. I'm just going to skip ahead. I hope you're all having fun chatting with each other. Harry Parent, any plans for the traction Avant? Yes, we were just talking about, I was talking about with Stephen the other day. The TA, I had to move it outside for now. We'll see that in the weekend video, because I don't want to take it apart while I have all these other cars apart. So the best way to store unfinished projects is to store them all as a car that is still together. So it will be getting the plan. We just revised the plan, because at first the plan was like, maybe we'll restore this really nice and make a nice car. But the revised plan is we're going to make it like the Fraser, where we get it safe and reliable and operational, and nice inside. That's it. It's going to get tires, exhaust, clutch, engine redo, get the wiring working, and brakes and new tires, which will be spendy enough. And that's it. If I start tearing into the body on that, which has been restored before, if I tear into that, it's going to be a life sentence, and I don't want to do it. They're not worth that much money. It's a neat old car, and it'll be fun. And I think, honestly, just like the Fraser, I drive the Fraser way more than I drive the 60 Fury, because the Fraser, I take it, I run errands with it, I leave it in parking lots, people lean on it, people could bang into it, I won't even notice. Or the Fury, it's not that it's so precious, it's just that I never want to work on it again, and I don't want to have to walk by dents and scratches on it in my garage. So that means it can't get, I don't want it to get dented or scratched. I don't want to work on it again. And that means, well, why expose it to extremely high risk situations like the average driver when I can just take the Citroen DS wagon? I mean, that thing I painted in one day. That is a total beater car. It looks okay. I have a lot of fun with it, but that thing goes to the old Super Safeway store or whatever. It can, and if it gets dented, I'll be like, okay. I mean, I hit a deer with it a few years ago. We just bang the dents out, paint whatever panel it is, back on the road. No problem. The Fraser, just obviously a total beater, but super fun, reliable, great errand car. Even the 37 Chevy, there's enough chips and scratches in that thing that it gets driven way more than the fancy painted cars. And if I did the traction Avant till it was beautiful, perfect black paint job and just gorgeous, I would never use it because I'd be afraid of it. Whereas if I leave it the way it is and just get it running and leave that crappy sandblasting shop paint job on there, I'll drive the hell out of it. We'll drive it all the time. And frankly, if you added up the hours it would take to bring it up to a show car level, and versus what it would be worth as a driver and a show car, all that extra time is paying you about 5 cents an hour. So it's just not worth it. And if I want a perfect traction Avant, I'll sell this one and buy a perfect one. That's the only way to do that. So that's kind of how I've been going about it. Yeah, so that is a slightly revised plan. The original plan was to be a little more involved body-wise, but plan B is get it safe and just drive it the way it is. And that means the interior doesn't have to come out, all the harness doesn't have to come out, there's a whole bunch of stuff that I don't have to do because the car is largely sound. It's not like it's a crumbling ruin. Like there's no holes in it. It's pretty good. So why not just kind of keep the plus, and also bearing in mind that we have 57 Plymouth to go, 58 Plymouth to go, 61 Plymouth to go, 41 Plymouth to go, plus whatever else I buy. There's still a lot of cars on the list to hammer through. And so, and I still fully intend to do it. And I'm going to keep at it as hard as I can. Let's see. Let's see. Impala hardtop update. Yes, well, soon enough. Yeah, we just finished the trunk lid. Anyway, let's see. Was the 51 Nash with the rusted out trunk made in Canada? I think it was, but I'm not 100% sure. That was a base model Nash. I'm not really sure. It was. It was. I know it was made in Canada because it was a Canadian Statesman. It said that was the model, and in the States that would have been called a Statesman. But because it was now, it's possible that it was made in the States and shipped to Canada and sold as a Canadian Statesman, but I don't think so. I think it was probably made in Canada. That would make the most sense. But I didn't have the car long enough. It was strictly parts. Like you saw, the car was just junk. So I didn't have it long enough to really get super worked, into the minutia of the car. It was just kind of, here's some doors that I can use and salvage what we can, and then sent it off to the parts yard. So how's Laura's cabin going? I hope to get you guys an update in the next couple of weeks. It's actually going along reasonably well now. I've got a hair on my hat here, or whatever that is. There we go. Or not. So we hope to get another update on the cabin. I'm thinking that they're very close to putting the roof on it, which would be awesome. So that's a big job. That is a big job, just managing that project, not to mention the actual work. But there's a lot of thinking and a lot of planning and a lot of phone calls and a lot going on. And text from Jim. Okay. And so there's lots to do yet, but I think she wants to have it shed in water before too long. because of course now you've got exposed wood on the floors and whatever. The plan is to have the roof on it before too long. Yeah. Cure Satran. What's the base? Oh, it's an old P base copy. Yeah, it's not a Fender, but it's a very good quality Japanese copy called a National. Nice old bass. I've had it for 30 years. Good old bass. Just use it for the songs in the show. Thanks. Well, thank you guys all for the happy Thanksgiving wishes. And again, to all you guys. Looks like no panic to get finished. I was going to finish up right away here, but yeah, I just got a note from Jim that he's stuck late at the office. So we will be, we can go a little after 7. I was going to head to Jim's at 7. So anyway, I hope that it helps me get caught up a little bit. Another note to put Honey Bun on.
What?
Huh? No?
Sorry, I missed it.
Just people are like, oh, where's Honey Bunny?
Oh.
But she's too shy, you guys. Maybe she'll come poke her head in when Frankers wakes up or something. We'll see. The thing is, I am also very shy, and I understand what that's like when somebody, puts you in an uncomfortable position. So I, after a year, we got her to be a tiny bit in the show just for the transmission parts. Oh, we'll be finishing the transmission. Oops, sorry about the ding, guys. Just Jim letting me know he's going to be late. We finish up the transmission on this weekend's video. So we get to see that happening. More work on the salvaged Volvo. It's almost there. I talked to Derry this week. We'll be going over to Derry's next week. And we'll be helping Derry with his Matador. Is that what that thing is? Yes, it's an AMC Matador police car. We got a few little things we can help Derry out with. And maybe Steven can join us. Lots coming up on the Buick this week. That's something, I mean, I know I've probably mentioned before just how crazy I am for 59 Buicks. Like, that is a car that I've wanted since I was 5 years old. And I mean, you never see them. So when I managed to find that pair of cars and so like, when I say certain cars are not getting done because, well, certainly not because the cars that I am working on are not my favorite. Like, they are, 60 Impala hardtop. Like, that's a car that, like, how did a guy like me ever end up with a 60 Impala hardtop? Like, that's a very special car and a car that I've never thought that I would have. I mean, I never thought that I would have any of these cars as a kid. Like, I couldn't even afford models of these cars. And then for many, many years, everything is just hand to mouth. And then I realized at one point, if you buy crappy, rusty versions of the cars you want, you can afford junkers. And then if you can fix them, then you can have the cars you always wanted. And that's kind of but then you realize you need the time. And that's what the YouTube channel is giving me is it helps to keep the lights on, and it allows me to put the time into the cars that I've always wanted. And I think if we start with cars that nobody else would have fixed, then, you can genuinely say, like, there's lots of better examples of all my cars out there, but those are not going to get crushed, right? So, they're not really in any danger of going in the baler. So that means that if we start with cars that were otherwise undoable, then we literally actually have put one back. There's lots of good cars out there, and there's lots of popular cars out there. I don't have to collect Camaros and Mustangs and cars like that, or Chargers, really cars that, I mean, no Chargers have been crushed in years, right? Like, to buy a Dodge Charger that is so bad that it has to be crushed is almost impossible, because you can basically build them out of repop panels anyway. So, I don't need those cars necessarily. So I'm very fortunate that very occasionally, and a lot of it is left to good luck. Occasionally, like if Tom hadn't found that 60 Impala, I never would have found it. It was just good luck. That car wasn't for sale. It wasn't advertised. Tom found it because he ran into a lady that used to be his neighbor, and she had bought a new property, and it was just abandoned in the back field, and she asked him what it was and what he would do with it. You know, that kind of thing. And that's how I like it to be. I like it to be, you know, part, you know, nobody else was going to fix this kind of thing, and part just good luck. Well, you know, to have these cars come along, just fantastic. So I don't know. I'm having a pretty good time, honestly, and just going to keep at it. William Rorick, good question. Is the Fraser covered for winter? No, it is not. Honestly, covering cars in the winter around here can be a double-edged thing. On one hand, you keep the snow off them, but on the other hand, snow doesn't really hurt cars. It doesn't. And when the temperature goes up above zero, I just brush the snow off, and then they're dry within a few minutes. But covering them up is a great way to get mice in them, and it's a great way for them to get mildewy. And so I find, honestly, that plus tarped cars look bad in the yard. It just looks bad. So I don't generally cover them. Anything that needs to be covered is already inside. And the only car I have a cover on is the little black Renault, actually, because that part of the garage, the cold storage part of the garage, occasionally has a cat in there, which there's occasionally cats that live around here that are not very sociable, but they keep mice down. So I don't chase the cats away, but I don't like them walking on highly polished black paint. So that car has a cover on it. You know, but for the most part, the Fraser, as you know, it's not like we're going to hurt the paint on that car by having it sit outside. So the street says, I'll send money, but you must spend it on beer and dope. All right, if you insist. You know, actually, I haven't bought beer in, well, not for myself, in 27 years, and I haven't bought dope in years either, because we just grow it in the yard, buddy. BKD is looking forward to classic darts. Well, thanks, buddy. So am I. I'm looking forward to finishing that up. It's always fun when those guys can come over, and we probably record a little too much because it's pretty easy to just, of course, I don't smoke cigarettes anymore. I quit. But it sometimes we've got the oldest darts we've ever had on Classic Darts coming up this week. And man, if there was some way that we could have, like, through the monitor, get you guys the smell of some of these darts, you know, like you guys have given me an award for being in the room to film that. Like that, some of those are unbelievable. Like, I think we use the word, well, I won't use the word we describe it, but unbelievable. Yeah, more for Classic Darts. Cheers, you guys. Yeah. Will the Olds be finished in 2025? That's a good question. It will be much further along. We talked earlier about the Olds going to wait until the Chrysler is drivable, because then Dan can enjoy driving that next year, whereas the Olds is a much bigger job. So the Olds there's a chance that we could have them both done, but if we do the Olds first, there's a 0% chance the Chrysler will be done. So this way, there's a 100% chance Dan can drive the Chrysler next year, and that means that there's a 50% chance that he'll drive the Chrysler and the Olds. The Olds is a big job, but we haven't even, you know, peeled back the can to see what kind of worms are in there. So I think because of the way we're going to do it, I mean, again, we're not trying to restore that car. It's not getting paint, but it needs to be made solid. So we need to make it solid, and balancing again, what's a restored perfect one of these worth versus how much you prepared to have into this very original car. But, you know, just the cost of re-chroming everything on that Oldsmobile makes it prohibitive. So the best thing to do with that car is get it roadworthy and enjoy it as an artifact, as opposed to trying to make some kind of showpiece and forcing tens of thousands of dollars that you're taking away from. You could build 4 other cars with that money. So that's kind of where we're at with that. I love that Oldsmobile so much, you guys. Like, oh, Dan just seems to have a way of just like buying just the right cars to make me just like, oh God, why don't I buy cars like this? So anyway, Dan, if you're watching, Dan's awesome. I am an hour behind you guys. Sorry. Yeah. I also appreciate Scott turning me on to other YouTube channels like Carter, Auto Restyling, and Strong Scratch. Well, thank you guys. Those are fine channels. Those guys are awesome, and I'm the one that's fortunate to know them. Brian Moore asks, any upcoming motorcycle projects? Well, I'm halfway through my 1971 CB750 Honda rebuild. I think I went over it on my motorcycle projects of the future video from about a year ago or 6 months. I don't know. That bike is half painted, and once that's painted, then it's a relatively straightforward, maybe week or so of mechanical work. So that's going to be coming up. I also want to rebuild the little Yamaha that I took on the road trip this year, because I cobbled that together to get it through the weekend, and just couldn't have been happier with how successful that was. But that's still pretty cobbled together. And I rode it a bunch when I got back too. We rode it around, and I rode with Andy, and we had a blast. Actually, I had a pretty fun drag race with Andy on his Suzuki 150 and me on the 175 Yami, and it did pretty good. But not too surprising to see Andy's Suzuki is really tight, and it's fresh, and it's properly done. And we were neck and neck up to about fifth gear, about 50 miles an hour, and then he just started walking away. And I just couldn't hold the throttle any wider open. And so the that little Suzuki, very impressive little bike. And of course, my favorite thing is that Dylan is now shopping for his own miniature 2-stroke, so that we can do that trip again next year. And so when we go back next year, I want to have that little Yamaha dialed in, so that we're not just like waiting for it to blow up the whole weekend. So that's coming up soon. So let's see. I'm just gonna back up a tiny. Geez, what's going on here? Sorry, guys. I am. Sorry, I did it again. So, well, hold on a second. How did I? Sorry, guys, I didn't even realize Alan Loisel put $50 in here. Like, thank you so much, man. That is amazing. Sorry, guys, I can't back up any further than Alan. So if anybody contributed before that, thank you so much. I have let myself get so far behind here. Geez. Yeah, well, you guys, that is just awesome. Thank you so much, Alan. Of course, we will waste it in the appropriate way. That's right. That's going to buy weather stripping for one of the cars. Like, that's just awesome. There's a certain amount of unavoidable expense, and this is just very, very generous of you guys to help keep it going here. So I'm going to just try to skip ahead, only because if that happens again, I'll lose so many messages, and I just feel bad. I didn't realize I can't scroll back up to the top. So anyway, I got so far behind you guys. Let's see. Giuseppe's Base, $20, man. Thank you so much. Thanks for all the laughs over the years. Well, thanks so much. Giuseppe's Base. Yeah, we've talked bases before. Thank you very much, man. One of these days, maybe we'll do a little show where we show off whatever stringed junkers we have here. But I guess the thing is with all the guitars is, you know, like, I can comfortably talk about cars because I think I know a little bit about them. But when it comes to musical instruments, I'm kind of a dummy. Like, I'm like, oh, that one's cool. No, I like that one's pointy. You know, that's how I buy my guitars. Oh, look how pointy that is. Oh, that's pretty metal, you know. So I would feel a bit like an ass going like, here's my whatever. Like, you know, I don't know. Go listen to somebody who knows about guitars. Like, I just don't know about that stuff. I like them, but I'm not going to sit here And when you're looking at somebody's car collection and you can tell that they have a lot of money but don't really know much about cars. You guys leave a note if you know what I'm talking about. Hey, there's Mexicans back. Hey, buddy. Car we knew as Jaguar and the company is dead. Yeah, fair play. Yes. Yeah, and James is right. They made that clear. Well, they did that to themselves. And then when everybody called them out on it, they just, anyway, we won't even get into that because right. Everybody, I think most of us are on the same page. And you know what? If we're not, that's fine too. I'd like to think that, I have a lot of friends who differ from me politically, and all we're asking is the right to disagree. We don't want you to agree with us. We don't care. But we want the right to disagree. That's all. So, and I've got friends, really good friends that I've had for decades that we see the world completely differently. And that's totally fine. And I think if more people were like that, we might actually make some progress. But it seems to be part of the plan is to discount the other person's point of view by ignoring it, and that doesn't ever work. Make an intro, send you. Oh, Kevin's offered to send some of his models. Well, that's very, very kind of you, Kevin. I do love model cars, but don't go out of your way. We didn't stop doing that because we ran out of model cars. It was just literally the amount of time that those 30-second intros were taking. Super fun. And if there was 10 days in a week, I'd still be doing them, but there just isn't. And so we have to just be careful with our time, because any one of these things could spiral out of control. Anything that we do with the green screen stuff, I mean, that is an hour for every minute of that. And, so over the years, I have to say, well, if I do this or that, do people really, appreciate it? Or is it, or would they rather see time spent on the cars? And so, you guys let me know. And for the most part, you do. And I mean, certainly nobody ever said, oh, I hate those toy cars at the intro. Nobody ever said that. But nobody ever said you should spend 20 hours a week on those instead of just 10. And to get it to the next level where you really start to think it's a believable scene, that's what it was going to start to take. And I think at that point, I was just like, we've reached as far as we can go with the setup that we have. And to make a bigger commitment, it's already too big of a commitment in terms of how much time we have. Chris Cochia, 20. Geez, thanks so much, Chris. That's very kind. $20. Man. Thanks for all the videos. I look forward to them every Saturday. Helps me when I can't find time to work on my old junkers. Well, that's very kind of you. And I know what it's like to not find time to work on your junkers, because that's what my show is the perils of trying to find time to work on your junkers. So, so that's very kind of you. And we, I'm very fortunate to be one of a tiny number of people who does get up in the morning or early afternoon and go to work on his cars. And I was talking with Stephen again about how much of your life you get back when you don't commute. And taking commuting out of my life has been a huge thing. And, because that's not driving. I like driving, but commuting is not driving. Traffic is not driving. Sitting at red lights and being mad is not driving. Anxiety that you're going to be late is not driving. Driving is going over to Dan's or going over to visit Jim or taking the Model T. That's driving. But, commuting and traffic and downtown and red lights and all that bullshit and getting pulled over by the cops, none of that is driving. So I try to take that out, and it just leaves you more time for the good stuff. And so people say, why do you have so many cars? I'm like, I like cars, I don't need all these cars because I have to go somewhere. And so when people say you should drive them more, I'm like, I didn't build them because I need to go somewhere. I just like them, But to me, it doesn't count unless it has plates. So it has to be able to be driven. Like if somebody comes over and says, "Oh my God, I like that car. Can we go for a drive?" I don't want to have to say, "Well, no, the brakes aren't very good, and I never put plates on it." I want to be, yeah, let's get in. That's good. I'm happy let's go for a drive. But if it's just sitting there in my garage, nice and dry and clean, and I don't feel compelled to go out there and well, I have to drive this car. Like, I'd rather work on the next one, and so that's what we're doing. Brad Sage just got in Canadian air. Oh, is it cold there? Oh, it's cold compared to Florida. Yeah, you bet, buddy. Well, today it's minus 22, which is about minus 10 Fahrenheit. So that's cool. It's definitely winter now. Like we can't pretend I'm not. I'll tell you what, I took the battery out of the motorcycle. So that's, right up until mid-November, I had the battery in there. I'm like, oh, we might get a nice day. And then you get a foot of snow and you're like, okay, take the battery out. That's done now. We're not doing that anymore. So that's kind of where we're at in terms of the temperature and the weather. It's supposed to get up above 0 next week, so that would be nice. I only need a few hours to do some sandblasting, and there was something else. Oh, we got to change the oil in a few of the cars. That's more fun when it's not minus 20 some. And Chris Kingston just dropping a note to say hello from Saskatchewan. Cheers from Alberta, buddy. I'm actually from Saskatchewan, so if you guys couldn't tell, I actually am. So are Dan and Paul and Kyle Carter and Tom, of course, from Saskatchewan. So when you get all those people in the same room, you can imagine that there will be some swearing, because that's just how it goes. James says the TA deserves to be a driver. Yes, I agree. And it doesn't need to be more than a driver. And I think that was, if I were, well, and the thing is with that car, I wanted a TA because I like Citroën, and they're a very special and very important car historically. And they just are so hard to find around here. And Andre, my friend, had half a dozen of them. And that one was the only one that was kind of not terrible. Excuse me. It was complete. And they're just so hard to find. It wouldn't be the model. Like if I had every traction Avant laid out in front of me, every model in the same condition, whatever that condition was, that's not the one I would have gone for. I would not buy the basically the family truckster school bus version. I would probably buy a Leger or a 15, the big 15 they call them, the 6-cylinder. But with that in mind, I don't feel compelled to make it the best one. I do love the idea of putting all your friends in and going for chips in a traction Avant, one of the icons of European motoring. They made them for so many years, and they look so similar that if you're looking at any piece of media that is filmed in Europe, or certainly in France from about 1936 to 1960, there's going to be so many tractions, and it's just really cool to see them. I even found one photograph that was taken in Paris in the day, and there's a traction Avant, a big one like mine, and a Citroën DS station wagon and a Peugeot 403 all at the same intersection. And so I thought, that's really cool. I could actually just about recreate that if I had an Eiffel Tower to put in the background. So that was cool to see. And it's also kind of fun. All these cars, including the Impala and almost all this stuff that we drive, none of them were particularly rare in the day in their context. And it's just kind of, it's interesting that they're considered rare and special now. But a lot of these cars, especially Impalas, which is kind of crazy to me, like you'll get more money for a 59 or 60 Impala than you will for a baby T-Bird these days. And yet one outsold the other by 10 times. And 20 years ago or 30 years ago, you'd get way more money for a baby bird than a 59 Chevy. But that has actually inverted now. And it's something I don't think a lot of people would have predicted. I think the natural inclination would be to think if baby birds are worth X dollars in the 80s, then 40 years later, they must be extremely valuable. But in fact, it didn't happen, because they were all at a certain point, there's more of them than there are people to take care of them who want one. And now, because Chevy Impalas were so throwaway for so long, and they made millions of them, that's why the lowrider scene got so attached to Impalas, is they were the cheapest car that you could buy. And so, you know, and the little tires, I guess that came from the little tires were cheaper, right? And of course, you could paint your own cars in that part of the world. You could paint them outside. It's easy because the weather is always so nice. So you end up with this, you know, this set of situation that created that suddenly this icon. And now those 60, 59, 60, 61, up to what, 64, I guess, maybe right through. I don't know. I don't really follow the scene very carefully. It's not, you know, it's not my thing. I love the look, but it's not the lifestyle doesn't resonate with somebody from Western Canada. But I love the style. I love the look. I just think that it's fantastic. But just a case, and I guess Mustangs too, you could say, well, how are Mustangs worth anything when they made millions of them? But there's always more demand than supply. And now there's more demand for Impalas than there is supply. And there's less demand than supply of Baby Birds or Mark II Continentals, even though they're much more exclusive cars. It's just a, you know, it's the way she goes. Sorry, we're at Josh Holman says Citroen DS is a rare car to use as a beater. Well, yeah, I guess it is. That's part of the fun of it too, and I think that's part of the fun that we all have as a group of friends, is that we try to use rare cars as beaters when we can, because you know, beaters means you don't have to worry about it, and so you don't want to use a very precious car as a daily slogger. And even my beaters, like, I drive so little that when I say it's a beater, it's not like I'm hammering it down the highway 200 miles to my job and back every day. You know, beater to me is, I mean, I'm going to hop in it and I'm going to go to the store. I'm not going to worry about if it gets a chip in the parking lot, or I'm not going to like put cones around it so that nobody can touch it. It's just, you know, it's just a driver car. And Ash is the same way. He's got some fantastically, that little Datsun Roadster, that's a very rare car, and he just hammers it, you know, because the paint's not perfect, and it's kind of a, you know, just it's just, you know, recognizing that there's a, you know, if they get too perfect and too precious, it's hard to have as much fun. And I like mine somewhere in between, but I also know that if I got to put my name on the paint job, that I want it to be at least decent. So there is that I weigh against that as well, because of course you're putting it out there for the world to criticize. So I have to at least, you know, I don't want people to look at cars that I painted and be like, oh, that's terrible, you know. So we try to balance again. Everything is balance, balancing time versus how good you want something to be. So John asked, was the Nash deemed irreparable even with the donor car? And when will Laura's Austin be completed? I guess you mean Rover. The Nash, it is by any realistic standard irreparable. Yes, nothing's irreparable. But we're talking about a car. I went around it when I got the parts car. We walked around the thing, and I pointed out some of the more ferocious damage to it, and that's without even looking at the rust. I mean, I looked underneath that car once, and I kind of shook my head and went, I guess that's that. So it is very, very poor. Again, everything's repairable. Absolutely. Would I bother? It'd be very hard to justify it when I have so many other cars that I love. And of all my lot cars, of all the cars that sit outside, that's one of my absolute favorites. And that's the one I wish was not so bad, but it is, realistically. And you know what? That's a car that somebody's grandpa has tucked in the garage right now. A very nice example of that. And it's probably sitting there with the brakes leaking, but it's basically sound and a nice car, and probably a low miles car. Maybe 5 or 10 years from now, that car is going to come up for sale in an estate situation, and I will get it for a very reasonable price, and I will be able to use mine for the half a dozen things that one needs, and then I will have for very little money, a very nice example of a very rare car. And in the meantime, I'm not sitting around with nothing to do, I guess is the thing. Very few 57.8 Plymouth two-door hardtops are going to come up for bargain basement garage sale money. So those I'm prepared to start from garbage. Like they all take roughly the same amount of work, right? So if you got a rusty car, it needs everything. It needs a motor, an interior, transmission, brakes, tires, chrome, windows. If it needs everything, you might as well start. Okay, if you're going to start with junk, you might as well start with junk that's at least worth something when you're done, versus restoring at great personal expense a car that you could literally buy the best one in the world for 15 grand. The Impala is a great example. A really nice 60 Impala two-door hardtop is a pretty serious proposition. If it's not a 6-digit car, but it's not an $8,000 car either. So that car, despite how terrible the one I have is and how much is involved in putting it back together, I can feel good that I am not wasting my time. I can't just go buy a nice one of those cars for 10 grand and be like, wow, this is really great. I'm so glad I didn't restore one. They're just not out there. If you can find a 60 Impala on the road for 10 grand, two-door hardtop, it's probably pretty bad under the paint. So anyway, that's that. And so the Nash, very, very unlikely. I'd still like to do it. I'd do it on a dare if I had nothing else to do. And the trouble is I just have a lot on the plate right now. So I'm just trying to plow through them. Yeah. So what happened with the 64 Chevy? Which one? Do I have a 64 Chevy? Or you mean Dan's 63? Oh, it's just waiting for the olds to be done. Yes, that's P. Tyler's World. Yes, good question. Thank you. If you're talking about Dan's 63 Biscayne, yes. Did I ever own a moped? No, but my great aunt did, and boy, did we wreck that thing. Yeah, turns out they're not very good dirt bikes, but we tried. We had a Push Bombardier 50cc, probably mid 70s. Yeah, that poor thing. Oh my God. I shudder. I shudder to think that poor thing. Yeah, it was a champion, man. You would not think that it could do the things that it did, but it did. Old Beater Car says the 51 Kaiser seems like the black car. Could be an easy toss it together and drive it like the Packard has been. Which Packard? I don't have a drivable Packard. Nevertheless, pull it in the body shop and get it done. Well, yeah, but it's still complete exhaust, complete set of tires, brakes, all the glass. Well, we got side glass, so we still need a windshield. Full interior, wiring's all out of it and not very good. Pretty big job, frankly. It'd be like the Fraser for sure. You could do it. You could do it in a year or so. And that was the plan. That's why it was inside. It's just... it's on the list, but it's not. I can't keep putting cars in front of the ones that are half finished. So I really want to. When I started the 60 Impala, that was because I wanted to splice that car, and I had the donor, and it was summer, and splices are much easier in the summer because a lot of it gets done outside. But that means that I'm halfway through that. I've started the 59 Buick because I wanted to have an engine to rebuild and, these types of things. So now I've started 2 more and the SM, and plus I help with my friends' cars, and I've got my own maintenance and driver cars and bikes to do. And so to take another car and take it apart or put it in the way, I'm literally out of space right now. So I just want to get a few buttoned up here. The Volvo will be buttoned up in the next couple of weeks. That's great. That's been sitting around for 8 years. It'll be just terrific to get that done. And I'm trying to put 1 or 2 back on the road every year, but that means I can only start 1 or 2 per year. And this year I started the Volvo and the 60 Impala. And last year I started the Buick, which isn't done. 10 years ago I started the SM. That's not done. Very typical SM story, I'm sure. So yes, thank you for the question though. Now, let's see. Sorry, I'm just going to try to speed up a little bit. Is Mopar Freak on here? No, I don't think I haven't seen Miles' name come up. Usually he pops in, but if he's there, I'm sure he'll pop in and say hi. I was just talking to Miles, was over yesterday, and so was Ash, and so was Andy, and we were all working on the Buick, and Stephen was over too. It was a great day. We had lots of fun, and we got a tiny amount of things done, which was awesome. Who will finish first, Jim's Continental or Tim Allen's 36 Ford electric hot rod? I don't know. I don't know how far along Tim Allen is. And is he doing it himself? Probably not. So I'm betting on Tim Allen because he probably just can hire somebody. Yeah. What's Miles working on right now? He's working on, we'll bring you guys up to date. He's working on his brother-in-law's 1966 Dodge Monaco 383 automatic, buckets console, really cool car, and we'll be bringing you guys updates and as that project goes throughout the winter. So that'll be awesome. That's another big block Dodge from the Miles garage, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that's going. Apparently it's going quite well, and of course it's not nearly, I don't think, as bad as his Fury was as a starting point. The Fury that Miles started with to build that was not one that he would buy today. Neither would any of us, neither would anybody sane, frankly. That was a very tough car, and it's awesome that he managed to put that back together, and it was really gratifying to see it in the calendar looking badass this year. And and seeing, that thing has been a millstone for many years for Miles, and I know what that's like. I had even my 67 Fury followed me around for 10 years waiting for me to have the time. So it was a big job, and it's really terrific to see get done. And immediately he's on to the next one, as we all are. So we're going to keep at it. Let's see. Sorry, guys. I'm just going to try and catch up a little bit so that we can. Whoops. What happened now? Am I getting anywhere here? There we are. What became of Dan's Duster? Michael Love asked. It's still in storage. I think what happened was Dan ordered a full interior for the car from one of these places that builds the interior for you. But they are very slow, and I think they are doing a good job. And meanwhile, the car kind of was as far as it could go without the interior. So it got put into a sea can for storage. Excuse me. And that's kind of where it's sitting. There's no hurry on the car. That was another car that Dan and Paul, I think, bought when they were kids. So they just wanted to have their old high school car kind of put back into running order. They have the engine and everything for it. It's just, how it goes. Once it's in the sea can, and like Dan's got that lovely Dodge van in there, and he's got his old 71 Newport, which is like a beautiful low mileage car. And those boys, they just have a lot on the go. And so they just pick at what they can when they can. And mostly right now, the two of them really, really just work a lot to pay their properties off. So that's it's still on the list, I believe. And it's just not, oh my God, I'm sorry, guys. I'm trying to keep up here. I'm just failing again and again. Hey, the street sent us 10 pounds. That's like 5 million Canadian dollars. Thank you so much, man, for beer and dope. Cheers. That's exactly how much beer and dope we need. Well, if it's in 10 pounds, I'll buy some proper pub draft, and we'll hand that out to the fellas at the next Classic Darts meeting. Yeah, Glenn says, lock yourself, how to survive winter, lock yourself in the garage and work on your projects. That's right. And hey, there's Dean. Hey, fun. Wait, don't you have a Volvo to fix? Yeah, Dean, get over here and let's fix it. Hey, you guys, say hi to Al Barrett. He's on the chat there. That's our buddy Dean. Yeah, what are you doing, Dean? What's that base? Oh, yeah, PT Mayotte. Oh, another question about the bass. Yeah, that's a Japanese Fender P-bass copy, I believe, from the mid to late 70s. It's nothing special. I just use it to write the music for the show. Scott needs a BC Ridge Warlock. Oh, that was a pointy one, wasn't it? Yeah. What's the Summer Splice 60 Chev going to have for a driveline? Right now, the plan is 283, 3-speed stick, and the 6-cylinder gears in the back, which I believe are a little steeper. And that's the plan as far as we go right now. Now, if we decide I'm going to rebuild the engine, so it's going to get tore down and it's going to get rings and blah, blah. I'm not trying to go crazy with it. I was actually going to make a 6-cylinder car out of it, but then Miles and Ashley said they would never talk to me. So I guess it'll be a V8. Plus, if you got a V8, then you can put 2 tailpipes. So, I'm doing the V8 for the look. And we'll see in terms of carburation and camshaft. If I do anything, it would be something like a 327, 350 horse solid, just for the chatter. I like that. I don't care. Obviously, the car's not going to be fast. Obviously, the only reason I would even think about getting a choppy cam is because it's a stick car, so you could kind of work around it. I just like the racket. That's all. We'll see. I said to Ash that I could get a choppy cam and just leave the 2-barrel, and then he kind of wrinkled his nose at me. So I do have a Carter WCFB, and it would not be hard to find a factory cast iron appropriate 4-barrel intake for it, and maybe run some of those sweet ram horn manifolds. But I don't know. I'm not. To me, that car is, the engine's just there to move the cool parts around. I'm not really too worked up about the engine, but right now I really like the idea of putting the engine that was in it when Tom found it. And it was a running car when I took it apart. Somehow that engine, which had been sitting since 1969 or 70, actually started and ran pretty good. Didn't even really smoke that much. So I'm anticipating a fairly easy, low stress rebuild with just the most basic, Rock Auto rebuild kit in there. And then if I decide to do anything dumb, it would be a chattery camshaft. Our friend John, we did a video, showed his sweet Corvette that he had, 1961 Corvette, and he started that up. And it must have had a LT1 cam or something in it, because it had just a nice little chop, and I think it was a solid cam. So maybe it wasn't a LT1. I don't know if those were hydraulic or not. I'm sure the Camshaft Nerd Patrol will answer all the questions there. So that's the plan, though. 283 stick shift. I got the clutch. I got the bell housing. I got the transmission. Dean and our buddy set us up there. Sean, Miles also knows. Miles bought his Pontiac from him. Super nice fellows. And so we've got all the hard parts to make that happen now. Just need to throw a bearing in the little arm that pushes on it. And so that's kind of where we're at with the old 283 Impala. Lots of people would say, well, you should find a 348. It's just a lot of extra money for a car. You guys seen the cars, they sit in the garage and they go to the store. It's a whole bunch of extra money to make it 1% faster in a quarter mile that it's never going to run. So I like the engines to start when I turn the key. I don't want it to leak. I don't want it to smoke. And I want it to start every time. And beyond that, I do not care. And so if I decide to put a choppy cam on it, it's not because I think that that's going to make it a better car, because it isn't. It'll make it worse. But it'll sound cool. That's all, So let's see. Sorry, guys. I'm just trying to get caught up there, and I guess I could just skip to the very bottom, but that would be no fun, would it? Hey, Devin Bow says, I made it. What did I miss? Well, that's a fair question. You didn't miss anything, buddy. Just more ranting about old junkers. And, oh, D. Strow. I recognize that name. $20. Keep up the great work. Oh, well, thanks very much. The Strausers from Pennsylvania. That is very kind of you, man. And, well, we will keep up the work such as it is. Thank you so much, man. We will very much appreciate that, and it'll be wasted in the correct prescribed manner on car parts. Thank you so much, boss. Very cool. Sorry, sometimes I'm reading through the comments and I'm like, oh, okay, I can tell how far behind I am because I was talking about T-Birds a while ago. So I'm trying to catch up, you guys. I'm seriously trying, but I'm probably not ever going to. So I'm just scroll through here a little bit, and Stranger Sounds. I knew there had to be a moped story. Yes, you were right. That was the first motorcycle, such as that is, that I was allowed to drive. A lot of kids my age had dirt bikes and stuff, but we never had those. My mom was not a fan of motorcycles at all, still isn't. So she doesn't find the motorcycle collection particularly interesting. Certainly not Andy's either, but well, actually, Andy kind of really got the motorcycle thing going. That was Andy's idea. He started with the bikes. His first bike was a 78 Yamaha IT 175, and it's been going from there. Oh, Rosemary Laptop got to go. Thanks for the chat. See you Saturday. Thank you very much for stopping in, you guys. There's still 500 people here. I would take off if there wasn't, but I guess, I mean, I'll keep it. If anybody has any questions, you guys let me know. Kevin says Alex's SM was pretty nice. Funny story about the SM. I'm sure that he mentioned it, or maybe not, but he bought that red SM from the same fellow I bought my blue parts car from, and the fellow who owned both those cars had mixed up the keys, and that's how I got to see Alex's SM, because he came out one day in a different car, and so I just gave him all the SM keys I had, and I said, if one of these fits your car, you have to drive it back over here and give me back the rest of the keys. And he did, and that was cool. And we had a fun little drive. I think he detailed the car up and sold it. I don't know if it's still local or if it has gone to a different part of the world, but it's cool. I love SMs, obviously. I do want to get mine going because the few times I did drive it before I took it apart, and I was just like, oh my God, these cars are awesome. So whatever it takes. It's not going to get a ton of use because I'm not, I don't want to work on it all the time, but I do want to get it done because it is just such a special car, and they're just unlike anything else, and pretty nice one to have in the garage if you're into French cars and into Citroën. I think to have an SM, it's not going to hurt my feeling. Another car that some bum that lives out in the Tules here shouldn't really have, but I'm happy to have one for sure. Dude 53, haven't seen Tom in a while. Oh yeah, no, Tom's good. Yeah, he was just here. When was Tom here? A couple days ago. Anyway, yeah, I don't always run and grab the camera when Tom stops in, and certainly in the winter we spend a lot less time outside. So it's the thing with Tom, if you point the camera at him every time he comes over, he's just going to stop coming over. He doesn't really care to be having a camera pointed at him. So I've tried to be respectful of that. And sometimes if we're doing something and he comes over and something fun's happening and the camera happens to be going, great. But I don't certainly chase Tom around with the camera. He's as shy as anybody else, but yeah, he's fine. And Tom's doing great. He stops by several times a week, and very often he's just on his way to or from somewhere. Dan from DD Speed Shop says it has to just sound good in the Princess Auto Parking. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And in my case, or it has to sound good in my driveway when my friends come over, right? I mean, there's a reason that we film all those tailpipes. I just love that. I love the chatter, So that's a perfectly legitimate reason for a big choppy cam. Is it sounds badass. Ashley manages to make his little 4-cylinder car sound pretty badass too. He likes to build tight little engines with lots of overlap, and they sound awesome. So, and Paul says, how do I know if you received a present that you actually got? Oh, well, you can watch the video this weekend when we unwrap it, Paul. Thank you so much. If it's Paul, who I think it is, and that looks like a 47 Mercury in your photograph there, then yeah, we were using it last night. So thanks so much, buddy. Yeah, that was very kind of you and very useful. Cheers. I never got any orders. Mexican specs says for any Renault 5 lights from anybody here. Does nobody need them? Yeah, well, thank you so much for supplying the ones for my car. I suspect, given the nature of the comments for my YouTube Renault projects, is probably a very small number of enthusiasts. Darren Johnson, or sorry, Nerad knows. Hello, Scott. Hello. How are you, buddy? Hope it's going well. Dean Johnson, different Johnson. Do you think auto metal direct sheet metal is going to be good for my 67 Chevelle project? Yes. Yeah, certainly any sheet metal is better than rust. So I've heard good things. I don't know. I haven't done a 67 Chevelle in 20 some years. So, what's the second here? So yeah, all of that stuff, all of that repop stuff can be made to look good. It's just a question of how, and even the best repop sheet metal can be made to look like shit if you do a bad job of it. So it's really a function of how much effort you put into making it look good. The metal itself, as long as it's close, you can make it work. I've made lots of very sketchy panels and made them look good, and I've bought them and made them look good and made them whatever. It's all the same thing in the end, which is getting it straight and getting the gaps right, and it's not easy. It's not easy, and I think it's a mistake that people make to blame the panels when they can't make them fit. And I've seen some guys, even on YouTube channels, making complete asses of themselves by blaming the panels when they can't get them to go on, when in fact it's just because, like, I won't get into it, but I've seen, I will say, if they have made that many for a car that popular, that you can make it look excellent. Doesn't mean that it's going to be easy or that it's going to just fall on there, but I 100% think that all of those panels, 99% of them, can be made to look excellent. And it's the operator. You got to put them on right. Shockwave says, Scott, there's a 60 Facel Vega HK 500 for sale. Search Stolza classic cars. Well, thank you very much. I'm going to search that, because what I need is more big dollar French rot boxes. If it's 24K, it's probably an absolute piece of crap. That's right up my alley. Thank you very much. I'm definitely going to look into that. We were talking about the SM earlier, and I said to Dan and the boys that the only thing that would talk me out of an SM would be possibly a Facel Vega. That would be on my list of dream cars that I don't expect to ever own, but you never know. You never know. So let's see. How did Franker's name evolve from Francine? I don't know. Francine was just kind of a classy name, and she was just a kind of a terrorist. And so I was calling her Fran for a while, and Franny, and then Frank from Francine, and then Frankers. It just I don't know. Like Frankers, it just stuck. I just started calling her Frankers, and now she recognizes that as her name. So that's just how it came about. Yeah, I wish. Sometimes we call her Francine. I think as she gets older, I'm going to try and get her used to being called Francine. So, but we'll see. Oh, there she is. Hello. let's see. I'm sorry, guys. I'm just trying to find where we are in terms of the thing here. It did the jump thing again, and oh, there we go. Must be getting close. Somebody K in sundry, is the motorcycle sickness worse than the car sickness because it takes less space? Yes, I would say that's the only way. No, I would say it's better than the car sickness, and that's the only thing better about it because it costs the same. Well, motorcycle sickness, you not, find me a motorcycle where the seat costs $10,000 to do. Like, I don't think that's the case. But I mean, I guess if you just want to spend money, I mean, motorcycles have the same value as cars. Like, there are $1 million motorcycles out there, just like the $1 million cars. So I would say for the home restorer, motorcycles are certainly easier than cars, as in the paint is way easier, bodywork's way easier. They tend to be way less rusty. I mean, you can certainly take a motorcycle frame and sandblast it, and it's not going to warp all to hell. You can just paint it and put it right back together. I mean, you could even argue that there's half as many tires. That's good. I think that the motorcycle sickness is a more sensible than the car sickness, but you can easily get rid of the same amount of money. So it's, in some ways you can get rid of the same amount of money, but you could say that I could collect $1 million watches. Well, I couldn't, because I couldn't even afford one. But I mean, you could collect watches and you could put your $1 million collection in one drawer. I guess you could put your $1 million car collection in one car if you wanted to. I don't know. I guess there are no answers. I guess it's whatever sickness you're into, I collect cars because I've always loved cars, and motorcycles were a thing I got into later, in large part because Andy was into them and I was jealous, and I was like, well, I need one of these now. So that is something. And motorcycles, yeah, I mean, one of the reasons Andy has so many more motorcycles than cars is that he lives in the city, and you could put 10 bikes in your garage, but you can't put 10 cars in your yard as easily without somebody getting upset. So there is that. I think the motorcycle thing is a very close second for me to cars. I mean, if you really want to ruin your life, you can collect airplanes, I guess. But you need like Rockstar, you need like Bruce Dickinson money to collect airplanes and shit like that. So, Just Steve asked, do you play all the music on your show, bass, drums? Yes, I do all the music just behind me on the thing here, except I do program the drums or loop the drums here, because I'm not going to bring a drum kit in here and set up microphones just so I can play for 30 seconds and then tear it all down and put it back. It's just much easier electronically. Drums are it's just not efficient use of time. But one guitar, one bass, and everything else, all the horns and violins and all that crap, of course, is done on the keyboard. So that's basically how I do it. It's got to be something that can be done very efficiently, because I don't have a ton of time for it. So, that Mexicans bag says a lot of people had a Renault 5. They don't want another one. I'm one of few people who has put that much effort into putting a Renault 5 and then putting a second one together. Probably not particularly brilliant. Richard Julian says, so-and-so, my friends, a new Coldwarmotors calendar. Some were jealous. They said the pictures are outstanding. Oh, the pictures and the quality are outstanding. Oh, cheers from Richard. Thank you very much, Richard. I did really try, recognizing that it was not cheap. I really genuinely wanted it to be good. And so it's very gratifying to hear from anybody who thinks that it is a quality thing, because that was the only goal there, was to make something quality. Rod asks, is the Kaiser you pulled out and got swapped the engine even remotely on the make it a driver list? Seems like a good replacement for the Fraser, maybe. Yeah, I would say. I mean, it always was. That's why it was inside for so long. And I don't like that it's outside, but I literally am at the point where I have to make some harder choices in order to make sure that the that some other cars are in. I don't like that the traction Avant is outside right now, but I can't leave it inside blowing heat on a car that I'm not working on. Well, the car that I do want to be working on is sitting outside with a foot of snow on it. And it's just, the boys were over last night and we were literally talking about building 100 by 100 shop just to put finished cars in. And the joke being, you think that wouldn't fill up right away. And then, we all said, well, within 20 minutes, you'd wish it was 200 by 100, right? Even Dan built that monstrous garage at his house. It's full, it's full. And he's like, well, I'm going to have to mirror it on the other side of the yard. And I also, storage is a very precious thing. And so you got to be careful. I mean, it'd be nice to put all these old cars inside, but to put up you put up $100,000 building to keep 20 grand worth of cars dry. Well, you should put a building over the building because the building's worth more than anything you could put in it. So I think that eventually, I don't know, I've never built any of the cars with the intent of selling them. And I never built any cars that I didn't really want, because the smart thing would say, well, take 3 of your cars and sell them and buy one nice car, and then you have the money to build 2 more and you got some extra parking. Fair enough, except that I couldn't pick 3 of my cars that I want to sell because I only bought them in the first place because I really wanted them and I wanted those. And I've never bought any cars and then driven them and went, oh, this thing is kind of disappointing, right? So it's difficult. I think I've talked to Laura about storage at their place, but and this is what Ashley and I talked about last night, is like, well, that'd be fine, but as soon as you're storing them somewhere else, that's half the fun is walking past them, right? And I don't want to have to drive over to Laura's house, or in Ashley's case, a half hour out of his way to walk into a dark building to just say, yep, there's my cars, so we'll have to see. There's I've got room, I've got more room, but we're gonna have to, there'll be a reckoning, sure, because when the SM's done and the 59 Buick's done, those got to go somewhere. 60 Impala has got to go somewhere. Like where it is right now is not anywhere that you could put a car that you're going to drive, because it takes 2 hours to get it out of there just because you have to slide it out on a jack. So these are, but you know what? I guess in the end, I'm going to say these are problems that I'm prepared to live with. If my biggest problem is that I've got so many sweet cars that I need to think about another garage, well, that's great. It means that I worked really hard and I built all those cars that I wanted, and now I have to work hard and make a garage for some of them. And that's okay, So I'm not too, as long as I have room, I'm going to keep going. And when I run out of room, well, then something's going to have to sit outside, or I got to start thinking about another garage, or I could sell them, I guess. But I didn't, if I sold my Citroen station wagon, because it's kind of, sorry, I'm petting Frankers here, guys, whatever you think is going on. If I sold that, like, I would never find anything that I would buy would either be so expensive or it would be a piece of crap. Well, I've already got one that's a piece of crap, but it's a reliable, drivable, daily piece of crap car. So I might as well have it here. I'm going to get Menace Boo up here to say hi. Come here, you little pirate. Oh, look who it is. Oh, it's Frankers. Hi, Frankers Boo. What are you doing today? Oh. Richard Julian says, by the way, oops, I presume that the Volvo is ready for winter, Renault 5 or Volvo this winter. Yes, well, funny thing, the Volvo is not quite ready. This weekend we'll be doing the timing belt and finishing the brakes, and then it needs tires, and then it is a salvage car, so it needs an inspection. All of that should be happening in the next few weeks, I hope. But what are you going to say hello? But then I don't know. I might. The thing with winter beaters is they're kind of they're kind of meant to be a throwaway car, and now I kind of am attached to that Volvo. So I might just buy some junker and keep the Volvo for summer, like need to rip down to Calgary kind of car. We'll see. There's definitely a place for the Volvo. And it could be a winter beater, but the salt. I just hate the salt. I hate wrecking nice cars. Here, you get down, man. Boop, go some up. Go. There you go. Hope you guys got to see Menace Frank. Oh, what a good girl. Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. We were just joking about one that came up. There's a car coming up for sale in the next couple of days here that I might end up with. And if that's the case, I'll beat that because I really would like a fuel injected modern-ish winter beater that I can. And the Volvo would fulfill that very nicely. But the thing with the Volvo, like when I mean beater, I mean like dirty coveralls. Don't wipe your boots off. And that Volvo is a really nice car. Like it's so clean. It's so nice inside. And there's not a speck of rust on it. It's really nice and straight and shiny. To just wreck it in the salt seems to be a kind of a waste. They don't make good cars like that anymore either. Like Volvo, that was the last real proper big ass tough Volvo. And I might like to keep that around. So the Renault 5, good. I could drive in the winter. I did, and I have, and I would if I had to. A lot of them, I've been driving the old Dodge truck as much as I don't like diesels in the winter. At least that thing never gets stuck. And it's just that they're so rough and noisy, and you got to plug it in or it won't start, and shit like that. So we'll see. Lots of options winter beater wise for sure. I'm trying to keep caught up. Thank you guys. Sorry if I missed anybody. If I missed something, you can ask again, please. No problem. And maybe we'll stay on. I don't know. I've been going for almost 3 hours. You guys let me know if you like. I can just bugger off too. Whatever. Sir Scott says you can store the R5s in the 72. Yes, that's right. I could put them both in the back. That's another car. That's near the top of the list because I have everything I need for that. Is the 72 Plymouth Sport Suburban. So we'll see. We'll see how that one goes. I'd like to get that going next year. That was going to be, subframe swap for this year, and just ran out of time with the Buick and the Chev projects and of course we've done a lot of work on the house this year that I haven't been detailing on the show because it's not really relevant, and I don't want to make one of those channels where suddenly the videos are like, let's go grocery shopping. I don't really think that I have the right to ask people to watch that stuff. So I don't really I keep all the non-car / motorcycle stuff kind of, off of the channel because it's not really relevant. So let's see. Snow Crusher asks, how many joints have you done this evening? Oh, I haven't done any actually. Thursdays and Fridays are pretty intense work-wise. It means I got to stay up like 20 hours at a time on those days. So yeah, no fun for me. Saturday night, different story, perhaps. But Thursdays and Fridays it's pretty square around here, honestly. It's very square. Let's see. Oh, there's Frankers. Woo! Let's see. Bacula 63, Bacula W 63. Do I qualify as a sad bastard if I only own motorbikes? Yes, because if you're such a motorcycle addict that you never even bought a car, that makes you a sad bastard, I would say for sure. Especially if there are times of the year when you can't even ride the motorcycles and you still don't have a car. That's extremely sad. So yeah, good on you. I know my brother's sickness is much worse with the motorcycles than the cars. There, John says, I miss Stella. Well, we all miss Stella. That was, well, what was that? That was coming up 6 years ago, 7 years ago. Yeah, long time. It'll be 7 next time. Yeah. Jim had a Volvo for a winter beater. No, he had a Mercedes, which he still has. He's got a Mercedes. Oh, what is that thing? It's a 560. I don't know. It's the big diesel monster. It's awesome. Jam S. I liked the criminal pinstripe on the Volvo. Oh, I'm glad you had a laugh with that. Thank you. We did too. That was not something I would have put on there, but in the interest of symmetry, I think it turned out very well. And the idea, again, being so that you walk by the car and you would never suspect that it has been worked on. So just I don't know. I just like that kind of thing. Govies, garbage revivals. Do you guys use road salt? Yes. Didn't used to be so bad as it is, but now I'm afraid that the salt is a serious concern. And when I look under 5-year-old, 10-year-old cars, I just can't do that to a car that I put any amount of work into. And in my case, that's almost all of them. I drive my truck in the winter because those things rust whether you drive them in the winter or not, and the frame is never going to rust. So that'll be fine. But the road salt is a serious concern, and it just basically means that you can drive whatever you want in the winter as long as you understand that it will be garbage, if you know, and that's fine. That's the way she goes. So it just means, in the case of my Volvo, well, I really like that car, and I might find some way of driving something else and then keep the Volvo clean for summer, because it'll last me literally the rest of my life. Those things last. I drive so little, and those cars are so tough. Like, a lot of my cars are probably going to get their last oil change here, because if they get 100 miles a year, I mean, is it ever going to even need another oil change? So that's and you could argue that, well, if you don't drive the Volvo much, who cares if you drive in the winter or the summer? And fair play, and I may, but it's not really. I don't know. It's not even just the salt. It's the fact that I'm usually wearing dirty coveralls, and I can't be bothered to change my clothes when I'm going to go somewhere, and then change them again when I get there. Take off my coveralls before I just can't be bothered. I know I won't, so why not just get a car where you don't give a shit? Let's see. Billy Bob Hull said Agent Bunny did a top shelf job with the transmission. Well, absolutely. We'll have the second half of that rebuild is coming up on Saturday, where we finish up the Dynaflow and get it all shined up and ready to go back into the car. That was another major reason why we spent yesterday getting the Buick ready to go inside. Nixon Garage, cheers, buddy. How do you deal with cars that have no titles in Canada? Speaking of Dynaflows, that was a gift from Nixon Garage, all the rebuild parts. Thanks again, boss. I hope that we do it justice for you. As for cars with no titles, there are no titles where I am here. The car's registration serves as the title. And so there's not really the same. There's probably, I'm quite sure that there are states in the US that don't issue titles for cars either. So it'd be just like that. If I sell a car from here to a state or province that requires a title, then they can issue a title based on my previous registration. Now, if I buy a car, and Alberta is good for this, if I buy a car that has no previous registration and no title, I can get that car inspected, and that I can insure it, and then I can go to a motor vehicle inspection facility, and if they pass the car and no liens come up against it and it's not stolen, then I can get registration for it, and that starts a chain of ownership which can serve as a title afterwards. And that's what we did with the Citroën DS that I restored for my friend in Montreal. That car was literally a field car that had been imported from the Middle East back in the 70s, and it had absolutely no paper or nothing. It was never even in this country. So we started that chain of paperwork by me restoring the car and insuring it in my name, getting it inspected, then registering it to me. Then as my car, I drove it to Montreal and sold it to my friend, who could then register it because it was registered to me. So there are ways around it. It's not ideal, but if you have registration, that serves. And I believe it's the same in states that don't have titles for their cars or don't issue titles, that in those cases, the registration serves as the title. If you should move that car to a place that requires a title, then they will issue a title based on the previous registration. And I believe that's how it is when I sold a car from here to my friend Bruce in British Columbia, and we did the same thing there. I had to register it to me to start the chain of paperwork, after which it was easier for him to register it there. So that's basically, it's not a death sentence like it is in some places. It's not. Yeah. So, oops, sorry guys, just oh, I think I got it behind myself here. There we go. No. Oh, is she? Sorry, guys. I'm just. I got scooped by the thingy again here. There we go. Smitty Smat asks, I'd like to know more about the band, who are the players, and the band name. Well, the players, if you're thinking of the band that sometimes plays at the beginning of the videos, with Ashley singing, as you know, our friend Ashley, owner of the Boogie Van and all the Datsuns, he is the singer and plays acoustic guitar, and my brother Andy plays the bass, and I play the lead guitar, split that with Andy's old neighbor and our friend Jay, who plays the other lead guitar, and Ashley's friend and neighbor Kevin, who plays drums with us. And so nobody's musicians there. So we're just having fun, and we kind of just like plonk, plonk, plonk. And, you know, we have a laugh. It's not meant to be a serious band or a serious collection of musicians, because it is not. Nobody there, I know musicians, and they get up in the morning and they play music, and that's what they do. That's what a musician is. So I am not one. I enjoy it. We enjoy it just for horsing around. It's just a fun change from the cars. I think the band name, we used to change the band name every time we had a show because we didn't want it to be like a band, you know. I think the last band name was Ultimate Set of Tools, and I think that kind of stuck. And anybody who remembers Fast Times at Ridgemont High remembers, of course, what's his name, Sean Penn's character. And it was a line from that movie. So so I'm just gonna skip ahead, see if there's any questions we have, and let's see. Oh, any chance of the CM Toque in the kiosk this winter? Well, not sure yet. We're going to be closing the store briefly here. Good time to do it with the postal strike going on. There's a number of reasons that it's going to be closed and reopened, and it'll be much more in-house. So that's coming up. And so we will keep everybody posted when we decide to put that back on, and we will probably have a grand opening wherein we will very possibly re-release all of our old t-shirts as for anybody who missed out on some of the first ones, or whatever their favorite one was that they couldn't get. So we'll probably do that. I don't know about the Toques, like this one, you mean? yeah, I was happy with these. The thing is that it took a year to sell 50 of them. So when you think that we can sell X number of hundreds of shirts in just a couple of weeks, and I don't want the store to become a big, to become a distraction from the main focus, which is I'm still just trying to build cars. That's my main goal in life, and it's why everything else is happening. So everything has to still serve the main, the prime directive, as they say, of build the cars. So it means I want this store to be fun and I want it to be successful, but it can't become, it can't start taking more time than the cars. So yeah, it's a balance. Again, there's only me and Bunny, and there's a lot to do, and so we're gonna keep at it, but it's something that I have to be very careful not to get overwhelmed by, because there's a lot going on around here. There's a lot of cars, and there's a lot to this YouTube thing. Excuse me, it takes a lot of time. The amount of editing, just one episode of Classic Darts is probably 20 hours. By the time you whittle it down to something that you can say, yes, I'm very happy and proud of that. And so anyway, that's coming up. Mexican Specs asks, have you gotten plates on the Volvo? If so, do they know it was repaired? Yes, the Volvo is salvage. It was wrote off by the insurance company 10 years ago. So I have to insure the car, go to motor vehicle department, get a request for inspection form, take the car to a qualified registered inspection place. Then they will inspect the car, and then they will decide if the car meets their standard. And then if they decide that the car is to the standard, and that means not just the accident repair, but like they inspect everything. So if the car was hit on the right side, but the left side rear tie rod sway bar link is loose, fail. Doesn't matter. If the windshield's got a chip in it, fail. Like the car has to be essentially brand new. They're really clamping down on write-offs, because for a long time it was same with vehicles from out of province now. For a long time, it was easy to just dump junk onto the market, right? And so to discourage that, and unfortunately, it's another case of both people ruining it for everybody else by dumping unsafe cars, and the government just having to stick its nose in anything whenever possible, just as a grift, as a tax grab. It's all a grab, like, let's be real. But so that is that is basically the situation, is you have to jump through a number of hoops to re-register a salvage car, and then it will always have an R in the suffix of the registration, as that designates a repaired car, so that you or I cannot turn around and try and sell a salvage car without the buyer knowing that. So in my case, I don't care, because I'm not selling the car. So I don't care if it says R on the title. I also know that car was written off because of the age of the car, not the severity of the damage. The car was wrote off. It was already 17 years old when it got in that minor side hit. I mean, it wasn't super minor. There was definitely some damage from that, but that's how that car ended up being wrote off. When the value of the repair exceeds 60% of the residual of the car, I believe that was the line, they'll just write it. And everybody they want old cars off the road, they want damaged cars off. They don't really care. What they want is people in dealerships being forced to buy new cars, and whether they do that by things like cash for clunkers, where they take every old affordable car off the market and crush it, or they do these, and they did that here. They did these minimum government buyback trade-in things, and they did a similar thing in the United States, I believe, where they put up these gigantic programs to decimate the used car market by using taxpayer money to overpay for perfectly good used cars and then crush them. And that forces people into the dealerships, which props up that industry and all the unions that run that. And then they it also gets everybody in debt, which they want. They don't want people whose cars are paid for. They want people who are making payments and interest payments more so than even the car payments. So that is basically the racket. And so a small corner of that racket involves, let's not have people fixing up cars that we've already thought we've gotten rid of once before. So they've made it very much trickier to get old repaired or to get repaired cars back on the road. And some of it was brought on, of course, by unscrupulous hatchet wielding hackers who, and believe me, I've seen stuff that should never have been back on the road, and there it was. So it's impossible to just blame the bureaucrats. A lot of it is a response. Of course, you know what it is? It's a response to people complaining they got ripped off, even though everything they got ripped off on was a result of them not getting inspected before they buy it. Like, so instead of buyer beware, we have instead, well, we'll just crush everything and then you have to buy a new car. Everybody wins except for sane people. So that's my understanding of it anyhow. So I might be wrong, but I've been in the car industry a long time, and that's pretty much how it goes. And we did write-offs I've done write-offs for decades. That's how she goes. So let's see. Happy Thanksgiving from Larry Fred. Thanks so much. From the home of NFL world champion Kansas City Chiefs. Oh, don't they have a big football game on Thanksgiving in the U.S. there? I'm sure I'm absolutely clueless with sports, you guys. Sorry, I can't. I'm a Canadian and I can't even skate. I've never been to a professional sporting event. I've never been to a hockey game. I wouldn't know what the inside of those buildings look like if it wasn't for rock concerts. And let's see. Billy Bob Holcomb asks, how well does powder coat hold up against road salt? I don't know. I haven't done a lot of powder coating. I think it's probably better than paint, but powder coat is like paint in that I believe, the more I learn about it, that there are very different levels of quality there. And I know Ashley was doing powder coat at home, and I believe that it looked great, but it wasn't as tough as the powder coat that you pay a professional to do. But I could be wrong. I've seen powder coated wheels that almost look like chrome, and maybe that's as hard. So yeah, I'm not the guy to ask because I've never done a direct comparison. I just can't tell you for sure. So let's see. Ed said, hey, Ed, I miss seeing some of the older CWM gang. I guess lives progress and change. Well, that's pretty much it, boss. There are, every chance I get to see, Dylan and some of those fellas, well, they've moved away. I get it. Dylan was a huge part of the show when it was younger, but he, did the right thing, which was to pursue much greener pastures where he lives now, and just getting a chance to see him reminded me how much I miss having him here. But the thing is that and a lot of the rest of the guys are still here, but we used to see Steven all the time, but now he's got a job and a house, and so he doesn't have 20 hours of free time a week like he used to. And ditto Al, and and Jim and Matt have got their own gig going, which is very, very hectic and very involved. So and I'm very conscious of it, but I'm also aware that this is that's inevitable, and it every one of those people that we don't get to see as much anymore, it's because they're doing better things with their lives. So I'm very happy for them, and I'll take what I can get. I'd rather, certainly am just delighted that Al and Justin can stop in and do a classic darts. If it's once a year, I'll take it, so I get it entirely, but I'm also just makes me happier for the time that we do have with them. That's all. And let's see, I'm just going to roll ahead here a bit, and then we'll probably start getting ready to sign it off so that I might have some breakfast, because it's coming up 8:30 and I never ate yet today. And we might just get a head start on the editing for this weekend, because it's going to be massive. Anytime we do a classic darts episode, I know that I'm in for some long evenings, so I'm going to get started moving towards that, and I am very happy to have as much raw material to work with as those fellas will give us. And we're very, very busy, and I've got just absolutely delighted with the projects that I get to work on, including the YouTube project. This is going on 15 years now for somebody who never held a job much more than 6 months, and most of them less than that. So I think that says, and you know what it says? It says a lot about you guys that watch this to find even any number of people who will join us to look at this, whatever we're up to, even once a week, is something I never really thought would be in my future. So it's very gratifying, and it is, I'm deeply humbled and indebted to you all, and especially everybody who contributes to literally keep this going. It is a giant commitment in time and effort, but it is because of you guys and because we do the show that I get to fill up my garage with all the stuff that 10-year-old me wanted and never thought he would be able to get. So there's whenever I start to recognize how relentless it is, and YouTube's a relentless thing. Like, I have not taken a week off in 8 years or whatever now it's been, ever since I got serious, if you can use the word serious, ever since I got serious with it, it's something I remained committed to. And so it's very gratifying to see the same names in the comments and in these chats, and like, we have no moderators, we have no filters on, and I look through this and of course I can't read everything, and I just don't see any negativity. You know what I mean? Like, every other show I see, they have to have people constantly going through. I mean, I guess maybe you could just say, well, this shit ain't worth trolling. Maybe it just trolls itself, and I'm okay if that's the case. Maybe that's what the case. You don't need to troll somebody when they're doing it for you. So, oh geez, sorry, a couple of thank yous I missed. James Kelly, thank you so much, man. He didn't leave a note there, but we were talking earlier. Oh, James was the one. Yeah, he mentioned about the Facel. Thank you again, boss. I will check into that. And Govey's Garbage Revivals also contributed to the show today. Thank you so much, you guys. That is extremely kind. And I don't do these things just because, like, it is very much appreciated. It is never expected, and it is always just a treat, and just really a fun time. Obviously, I do ramble, right? I mean, we're going on three and a half hours. If somebody told me to sit down and talk for 3.5 hours without stopping, I would be like, no, I'm not doing that. But it's fun. It's like having a fun conversation with your friends, And of course, we can't answer all the questions, and for that, I apologize. But we will, we try. I hope we get a feel for what we're about by hanging out anyway. So there's oh, look at that. And one Tuzzy. Well, that's terrific. Another 20. You guys are crazy. So thank you so much. And to Duncan Frere, again, well, it is very much appreciated, you guys. Now I was going to say we're almost done, and I see another page of questions here. So thank you guys so much. It's again very much appreciated. El Moore asked, "Did you see the?" Yes, I did see that. Junks Auto did the tribute to you and Dee Dee and Bad Chad of Ice Cream Garage. Yes. I got a tremendous kick out of that, especially the scene with Frankers. If any of you guys haven't seen that, you should check that out because it was very funny and and a very good sport. And so, yes, thank you guys so much. I did. All my friends got a kick out of the part where I'm like, "Oh, I'm not comfortable here," and I was like, "Yeah, he's right." So that was awesome. Thank you. It is fun. And then let's see many people's. Oh, well, thank you very much, Richard Julian, and thank you guys all much for the show. Just making sure that we haven't missed anybody, but it is there's going to be more for sure. We've got lots coming up, and we've got many. I guess the thing with this is that if I ever run out of material, it'll mean that I've gotten all my cars done, and at that point, mission accomplished. So, but if you guys have seen the pile outside of unfinished cars, then you see that at this rate, I will be doing YouTube videos from my deathbed in between gasps on the oxygen. So I hope that that's not anytime soon. And I hope that we don't do it so long that I'm restoring mid-2000s cars, because that's all that's left. So there's lots to do yet, and I'm nowhere near finished my personal goal. The goal when I moved here, my goal was 20 cars for myself with plates on them. And I mean, we're more than halfway there. And so, but we're not way more than halfway there. So that would mean that what? We got another 10 to 15 years of YouTube. Well, you guys are going to be sick of looking at me. So anyway, that's probably as good a spot to end it as anywhere. Yeah, it's just a reasonable 20 cars. And thank you guys so much. And I'm getting a little parched, and I'll probably get lost here. Oh, and there's Menace. Can you see her? There she is. Hey, Frankers, you can say goodbye? No. Frankers is not saying nothing. So, yes, let's see. Yeah, that's right. We got 15 more years of the same old shit, you guys. Okay, well, that's I've wasted almost 3.5 hours of some people's time. And so thank you guys. It's all because of you, and it's for you, and very much appreciate all the support. And we will see everybody in a couple of days. And that's, yeah, right? I think so. Good night. Yes, good night, everybody. Thank you for all the good nights. That's very kind. Okay, see everybody very soon. Thank you guys so much, and everybody in the States, happy Thanksgiving, and yeah, have a terrific evening, guys. Cheers.